And I did only make it through season one, so I figured whatever, we'll just do season one. And this one should be easier, dude. I mean, I'm down to do this like every week or every other week or something.
Oh yeah, no, they're so easy to get through. I just
Yeah.
put them on. You can watch like 4 episodes, 5 episodes a night.
And
And
it,
yeah, I think I've made it through season 5, and then I
oh
went back
shit.
and I rewatched. I rewatched season 1 again, like in the
Right.
past couple weeks. So it's like a little bit more fresh in my mind. But yeah, I remember in my first rewatch, I was like, oh wow, this is like so much better than I remember it. And I remember liking it a lot, but I just noticed things more this time around.
And we were a little older when it came, like I was in college, so it wasn't like I was sitting down with my family to like watch like the Wednesday night sitcom or something anymore.
Mhm.
Like when it came out, which I mean we'll get to, but like yeah, dude, I started watching it and I was like started taking pages of notes and I was like, oh, I didn't realize that there's so much to say about this. And we're gonna talk about all that too, but I was just like, dude, like this fucking book, man.
Heavy.
Bored.
Heavy.
I am heavy, heavy, heavy bored.
I may say that the male is entirely hostile. No! Inner
Resources.
life, friends, is boring. We must not say so.
Yeah, man, thanks for doing this, dude. And there's so much that I want to talk about with Modern Family. And I was like, man, we should do like at some point we should just maybe when we're halfway, like when we hit season 4 or 5, like we should just start going through the characters where it's just like, all right, Jay, Gloria, what do we think of this? How do they play out? Because then it's like a couple seasons in. I mean, I don't know. We'll see
Mhm.
how it goes, whatever. But I figure
Yeah.
it's like too early to do that with season one. Like even the actors are still kind of feeling out like the stuff. And the kids are just non-entities at this point. Uh,
Mhm.
but I feel like, I mean, we'll get into this too. I mean, dude, like the way the show works, like season probably 2 through 5 is like the peak. Like it is running full steam ahead. It is the biggest show sitcom on television.
Mhm.
They're getting all the Emmys, blah blah blah. And honestly, it is clicking like every single episode is good. Like during that like season 2 through season 5 run is just incredible.
Even this first season, like there
Yeah,
aren't a lot of bad ones, you know?
yeah, yeah. Which I mean, it speaks to the writing, dude. Like it speaks to how sitcoms are written now. Like it just, I mean, we're good to this. Let's just start, I guess, because we're already talking about it. Like kind of, we're back with another episode of Heavy Board, and we are joined once again by Eric at Bazillion Plus, known as Organized Meat on Twitter out there. Eric, welcome back to Heavy Board.
Thanks for having me back.
Of course,
Excited to
bro.
talk about this, man.
Hell yeah. And this is another one of our drunken decisions that we made during one of our dinners, listeners, where we were drinking and talking about podcasts and just, shows, movies, whatever. And I was like, you know what? I've been watching Modern Family, rewatching, and I was like, what? Would you be down to do it? And Eric said, hell yeah, he'd be down to do it. And this is the first one of those, listeners. I wanted to call this, and we'll get to this eventually too, Eric. I have a bunch of questions here. Just as like the setup, the kind of the last American sitcom, and we'll get into why I'm calling it that. But I did want to give an overview to listeners quickly. Is that this is obviously just like we do with the books and everything else. We're going to be talking about what we like, dislike, what works, what doesn't, blah blah blah, cultural impact, larger stuff, all like that. Of course, and anything goes, as Eric already knows, and all you listening know. But I had a weird kind of thesis approaching this episode, and not even weird. It was just like an unusual one that you're not going to hear about this show until like 20 years from now, probably. Where my kind of approach to this, and I talked to Eric about this, and of course, so it is kind of like a lens. I just want to be clear to listeners that it is kind of like a lens that I'm putting on it. You don't have to do it this way, but I was just so fascinated where like my theory is that Modern Family as this kind of last American sitcom, the last huge big sitcom perfectly documents the 2010s and what happened over that decade to the culture, to cultural production, to movies, TV shows, literature, everything, conversations, social media memes, everything has been. I just like started watching and be like, man, this thing just kind of tracks it perfectly because it started in 2009 and it ended, I think, in like 2020, 2021, like during the pandemic was like the final like 11th season or something. Uh,
Yeah, around 2019, 2020.
yeah. And it was just like, it occurred to me going back now. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, but I was not thinking this at the time, was not ever considering it at the time. But looking back, 15 years later, I was just like, man, this thing is the perfect vehicle to document the insanity and not just the insanity, because that's the most obvious part, culturally that we've lived through with like woke and all of that. But like just how it starts, it's very subtle, and then all at once, Uh, and I don't know, I just felt like using this piece of artwork, this piece of kind of pop art too, because this is a mainstream, beloved, this isn't some, avant-garde, like edgy piece of art. This is for a huge global, like, family-friendly audience. It was a phenomenon, and it was just, it just so happened that this was the biggest show running during this huge shift in the last, from the 2010-ish era to 2020 to what we are now. So I just wanted to lay that out for listeners. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I watched the show as it was airing. It was kind of, one of the last sitcoms that I think people talked about.
Yeah.
If you go to work, your coworkers would be talking about it. Everyone knew it. There weren't streaming services yet carrying all this stuff, so you could watch it anytime you wanted to. You pretty much had to, you could record it. There were, video recorders, obviously, and I think
Yeah.
that's what I did. But
TiVo.
still, everyone was watching them around the same time, and always looked forward to the season premiere and the season finale. And people talked about these characters all the time. And yeah, so it's kind of one of those last shows that was like almost appointment viewing for
Yeah.
people, especially on just a normal television station, not the HBO like Game of
Right.
Thrones came along and stuff, but just on a normal network that everyone has access to, right? You don't need cable or anything like that. This was just something that was very common and everyone watched.
And that's important too. And it isn't necessarily anything to do with this show in particular, listeners. It's like, it's just because the culture was shifting. This was just kind of one of the last big hit shows that happened before social media became the vehicle for all entertainment and stuff. And like Eric was saying, it was just before all that happened. So before this rapid, huge cultural shift that happened in the 2010s here, and not just the cultural stuff like wokeness and all of that, but like, yeah, like you said, how you consume it, this kind of streaming on demand, like it was back in that, and that's no fault of the show. It's just like something that the show just happened to fall into, like that time frame. And so it's just, that's another reason I say it's like a perfect vehicle to kind of evaluate this culturally. Plus it kind of puts a little fun spin on it. But like you were saying, dude, yeah, the history of this, when did you first come to it? Like the pilot I wrote down aired on September 23rd, 2009 on ABC. You said a little bit already. What was your history with it? You said you were watching it pretty regularly. It was one
Yeah.
of my mother's favorite shows. Yeah, please.
I mean, I don't think I saw the pilot as it aired, but I
Right.
remember
Yeah.
it was one of those things where everyone would start talking about it, right? You could read reviews and it was like, oh, this is like one of the best shows that has come around in a while. And so you give it a shot, and yeah, it was really good. So maybe I came around like, mid first season or so. Um, and then, watch the reruns during the summer or something. But
Right.
uh, yeah, I was watching this at the time it aired, and again, just humor that I think, looking back on it now on the rewatch, seems like, oh wow, these aren't jokes that they would make on television nowadays. These aren't characters who, I mean, they may have like the same uh, types of characters, but the personalities and how they're portrayed would be, entirely different. Um, So, but at the time, this is just like something everyone thought was funny.
Yeah.
And also, it was, The Office, Parks and Rec had success with this whole like documentary style
Hmm.
approach to television, which is still being done today, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like there's shows like what's that popular one? Oh, about the school, Abbott Elementary
Oh, right, right,
has
right.
that style. There's another one I just saw previews for called Stumble about like a gymnastics
Right.
team. That's a documentary style.
There's one
Like,
on NBC Peacock called like St. Dennis Medical, which is like a hospital doing the same
oh
thing.
yes, yeah, I've seen ads for that. There's also the paper, which is a Office spinoff. I think they're still doing the same thing. And it's
Yeah.
just, I guess it was creative when The Office did it. And, I guess I would be somewhat skeptical about, Modern Family coming along and doing it. But this was like right at the time where it was still new and interesting. And I, now it's like, why? Why are you doing this documentary
Right.
still? But even, when during the first season, if you look at the first two episodes, that's kind of the only time that they're acknowledging like that they're really being interviewed by someone and like it is a documentary about like the average modern family. The angle being there's a older man married to a younger immigrant. One's got and he's got a gay son who's in a relationship and they're adopting a baby. And then you have kind of like the normal heterosexual couple and their grandchildren that are, one's a nerd and one's like a slut, right? It's
Yeah.
you have like these different dynamics going on, and that was like okay, you could buy that for the plot of this show, and you see their names actually like written underneath in the first couple episodes when they're being interviewed, like oh, this is Jay, this is Gloria, and they're kind of talking, giving background where I guess for the first two episodes that works, but I'm glad they ditched that.
Right.
And it just sort of works like how The Office did. They do interviews, but there's no real acknowledgement like that this is for a documentary.
Yeah. And that's honestly the the thing that hurt The Office in those later seasons after Steve Carell got too big for the show,
Mhm.
was when they started acknowledging the camera crews and things in The Office, in those later last two seasons, or was it just the final season?
Yeah.
It was just a
Mhm.
mistake. It was like you run out of ideas and like no, the camera crew being acknowledged does not make this work better. It's just no, it works better when they're just non-entities and you're just vaguely reminded that it's a mockumentary style with the confessional cams and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say like one of the characters in The Office is it like Pam. I don't know, maybe one of them had like an affair, I want to say, with like one of the
Yeah.
camera crew people or something
Right.
like that.
It was
Yeah,
like
the
a
way
little
that works in
crush.
yeah, those final seasons they were just throwing everything at it, and like yeah, that just didn't work. So I'm glad Modern Family always stayed away from that.
It
The pilot and I guess the first two episodes, yeah, they're just trying it out, and then I think they realize what they have, and you don't really need to remind people that it's a documentary. They're just gonna watch it.
right. And it's like one thing I noticed too with those first two episodes with the names actually written on screen when they introduce them for the confessional cam.
Mhm.
The font was almost like the Friends font.
Yes.
Like it was like this kind of people were looking for that next huge sitcom, and I would looked it up because I was thinking, what are the other big sitcoms? 'Cause I was like, if I want to say this is like the last American sitcom, were there other sitcoms? And I was thinking like The Big Bang Theory was. I looked it up because I was curious. That started around 2007, so that was a little bit before this. But that had a cultural impact. It didn't have as much cultural impact as this. And it wasn't, obviously it won Emmys and was awarded, but like not as much as Modern Family was. It just wasn't as beloved universally between generations and stuff as Modern Family was. The Big Bang Theory specifically, which is probably the other big sitcom that was on TV at the time. And it was more traditional in that Friends style, like five friends and like a New York apartment building, like just
Mhm.
interacting with each other, no children, just adult friends kind of doing that thing. But yeah, my
No.
history with this was always like I didn't watch it when like that regularly when it was on air, obviously, and this was like you said before the streaming era, so how soon we forget that like if you didn't catch it when it was on TV, you were waiting a while before you could see it again, like until the DVDs came out, basically, or it went on demand if you had like Comcast on demand or whatever at the time, which was like the kind of first iteration of streaming, maybe, but we didn't really know that at the time. Yeah, but this was one of my mother's favorite shows, and it was also one of those things when the reruns, the syndicated reruns would air, after school or something, in like two episodes at like 4 o'clock or something, or 6 o'clock, and my mom would usually put those on, and we'd watch them like after dinner or something.
Mhm.
And but yeah, I wasn't like a regular watcher of it, and I never had seen the entire thing in its entirety until the streaming era when it was all on, like the entire 11 seasons was on Hulu, and yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things. And I remember Friends at the time, it was considered kind of corny because it wasn't as like adult or edgy as, say, Parks and Rec and, The Office, like we said, uh, the explicit sexual stuff. And it was more family comedy than Parks and Rec and The Office was.
Mhm.
Although those are perfectly fine for families, there's not like they're inappropriate. These are network sitcoms. It's just like, the themes, like I said, there's no children in those sitcoms. There's no like kind of there's some family stuff, but it's not like a main part of the show like this. Whereas, and I'm glad Eric agreed to do this because Eric has a much vaster knowledge of the history of sitcoms and stuff like that than I do. Where there was this kind of most sitcoms did kind of center around a single family,
Mhm.
up in or like a five friends or something like that. That was the formula until this show, where you have these huge casts. Yeah, I mean that's my history with it. So I wasn't like some crazy thing with it or anything like that, or some crazy obsessed fan. But I do, like you said, rewatching it now in the streaming era, it is an artifact now of how good network sitcoms used to be.
Yeah.
How well written and like done, like production and stuff was. The sets were very believable, like
Yeah. And no, this show did have a cultural impact. I mean, so the difference between this and like Big Bang Theory is like, I think people who enjoy Big Bang Theory would also enjoy this.
yeah,
They would be like hardcore Big Bang Theory fans. That show had more obsessive fans that came from like that because it targeted, nerd culture and the comic book people, science people. To the point where like being a nerd now isn't like some niche thing. It's like that's like I swear it's like 70% of people out there
yeah.
would be like, I'm a nerd. And so I think sort of Big Bang Theory kind of had that large cultural impact because it was like of those shows that I think of during that era that were like really big, it was like the least funny. I think like Two and a Half Men was a great show. Um, How I Met Your Mother was a good
Right.
show. Like, and those were two really big ones that I remember people talking about, along with, The Office, Parks and Rec, Modern Family, around that that era. And I think those are kind of like the last big ones, but Modern Family has to be next.
Yeah.
And the one that I think just you can rewatch even the later seasons and you're still going to find something funny and it's not tired or played out. Some of the characters maybe, but I think they always tried something fresh and kind of kept it alive throughout the entire series.
And they did. This doesn't happen until I think around season 3 or 4, and we'll get there, listeners. Eric and I are going to break this down, so we're going to have many episodes forthcoming here. One other running series on the show. So it's like there was this like around season they started to incorporate technology more because culturally the technology was changing. Like overall, our technology was changing. It's just like listeners to the show are familiar with this, where I always separate the world into there's the pre-online world and there's the post-online world. And I don't necessarily mean when the internet was invented. I mean when smartphones and social media became the main filter of the entire world. That happened around 2012, 2013-ish. So this show started kind of a few years before that, and we're going to get to that because there's this episode specifically about when the iPad was released in this first
Mhm.
season and stuff. Um, and I know people said, "Oh, the smartphone was invented in 2007 by Apple." Yes, it was. It was out there. The iPhone was out there, but People understand this, that a technology just doesn't get adapted overnight. It was a new tech. It was expensive. It was the most expensive phone ever made when it came out. It still is. Essentially, every new model is now the newest, like most expensive phone ever made. Uh, but that takes like 5 years for people to adapt. I didn't have it when it came out. I didn't have a smartphone until like 2012-ish, and that was kind of around when it became ubiquitous. And you see it even with the characters. These big businessmen, they don't even have iPhones, right? They have flip phones. They have the kind of what was popular at that time was like the keyboard phones. I had a few of those, but they were not necessarily, they were not what we think of today. And it's just such a time capsule in that way,
Mhm.
but in all these other ways too, listeners, culturally and stuff too. But I brought up The Big Bang Theory and, like you said, these other big sitcoms that were huge at the time because I was just trying to think. I was like, if is it appropriate to call this the last American sitcom? And I just wanted your thought. Was Modern Family the last, big American sitcom before kind of streaming like made that not possible anymore? Look, and again, it's not necessarily anything to do with this show. It's just the fact that the industry changed through the technology, through how people consume it. That all of this stuff came together in the middle of this show being on air. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, so when like the phrase, American sitcom,
right.
like it sort of brings to mind like, the great American novel.
Hmm.
And that sort of implies something that's like everyone is into, everyone's talking about it, right?
Right.
It's kind of has something for everyone. And this, Modern Family might be, it's definitely one of the last,
Right.
one of those last things where like everyone was talking about the series finale when it was on because everyone loved the show for years. So, when it was coming to an end, like people were talking about it. Even in, 2019, 2020. And because people had been watching it, they had been, gathering around the television, every, whatever day it was on at like 8:30, and they were watching Modern Family. So in that way, that it's like, you know, I think an American sitcom has to be appointment viewing and for people who like, for vastly different types of people. It's got something for everyone. Um, and I think Modern Family fits that. I don't think Big Bang Theory does because
Right.
it's, if you're not into comic book or nerd culture, like I don't think you're going to enjoy it. I think Two and a Half Men, while I think it's a great show, maybe a little bit too raunchy for some more traditional families. And How I Met Your Mother was a little bit too like young hipster. Um, but yeah,
Those,
Modern Family has a blend of everything, and it
yeah,
works really well together because of the writing.
a mass pop culture thing. Yeah, where it is well liked, it is popular, it is good, and it is, yeah, it's not trying to be like an edgy sitcom or something. It's just trying to be like, here's the formula for sitcoms. They do some fresh things with it, but it's still like, they're not like trying to buck the trend or something. They're just writing solid, good kind of craftsmanship. Like this is good writing, good production. They like guest stars are all over this, even in the first season, and that gets even more so in the later seasons.
Mhm.
And this not the first season. It didn't blow up super huge after the first season, although it kind of did. But yeah, I kept comparing it to something because I was thinking about like rewatches and stuff. Like my Hulu account, and again, the algorithm tailors this stuff to you, and whatever. My wife and I shared one for a long time, so our tastes are kind of mixed on there, whatever. The algorithm, it's constantly asking me, do you want to watch Modern Family? Do you want to rewatch this? It's never doing that for any other sitcoms.
Mhm.
So I don't know the numbers. Maybe anybody out there who does, if you work at Netflix or Hulu or something, you can see some of these numbers. I would bet Modern Family is probably streamed more often than something like The Big Bang or even How I Met Your Mother or something uh, on these platforms now when you have access to all of it. I don't know. I mean, that's just a guess, like a theory, but it's just interesting how like yeah, my algorithm was constantly recommending this before I even started to rewatch it the first time. Uh, yeah, it's just like this something about this that captured the zeitgeist that just happened to fall into this kind of huge shifting dynamic and all of that. And it just, yeah, we could talk about tech. There's the nostalgia factor. There's there's all the great bits that are happening in this show at all times because of the great writing. There's the character dynamics and all that, and then the themes as well. So I mean, we could go into this so many different ways, but I mean, yeah, it's just basically it's an artifact from that pre everything's online world.
Mhm.
Which I mean, you know, technically all the sitcoms from that time are, but this one I just think stands out because it ran so long, it was so popular, and it got through the big cultural shifts. And you see that in the writing, and we're going to get into that when we get to the later seasons here. When the woke shift happened, and it comes into the dialogue and the events and the circumstances, the situational comedy like circumstances that they put themselves in.
Yeah.
But okay, so I was thinking like first thoughts as I was just kind of, you know, already seen it, but I'm watching it for the first time where I'm taking notes, you know, to talk about this with a specific lens in mind. And I was just thinking like, man, Sofia Vergara. My first note was just wow. Like she was maybe
Yeah.
the hottest woman on earth at that time. I mean,
I do definitely. Yeah, especially like because I mean, I guess I just remembered her. My last image is like from, the later seasons. So I
yeah.
hadn't gone back and watched it. I remember like, God damn, she is um so amazingly hot. And
Yeah.
she's also very funny in it. Like she is, at least in this show, a great comedic actress. I really haven't seen too much of her stuff outside of this show. So, I mean, I don't really know how she is overall as an actress, but I mean, in this, she nails it every single time. She's definitely one of the funnier people on the show.
And it was just perfect casting for that because she basically plays the same person, you know, in everything she's done
Mhm.
as an actor, at least. Because I think she had never acted before she did this. She just didn't.
Yeah.
She was like a model or something, and she apparently my wife is telling me her family has like some shady ties in Colombia and stuff.
Yeah, but that would not surprise me.
Yeah, but and she was just so gorgeous that you know she was a model and blah blah blah, and then of course they cast her in this. It was just a perfect casting because you needed this kind of yeah a Hispanic, a second wife of this rich guy who's older, who yeah you know broken English. Those bits are always fucking great, and she plays them
Mhm.
great with she exaggerating the accent and stuff. She kind of play, and it was at a time when like an actor was asked to do that, you know, like play up the broken English thing as a comedy bit. Whereas now you'd have actors like refusing or like doing some screed about how it's like, you know, a stereotype, blah, blah, blah. Whereas
Mhm.
back then it was just part of the bit, you know, it was just part of the bit because if you lived in Southern California, you would see that everywhere, you know, like a
Yeah.
very attractive Latina trophy wife as like the second, third wife.
Yeah.
Uh, but
No, for
yes,
sure. And that, like, I mean, and she had to be that attractive because there's so many jokes about like uh there's an episode when I think Jay's ex-wife, who's played by Shelley Long, uh finally meets Sophia Vergara's character, and it's just like, yeah, she has to be totally offended at how beautiful she is, and like, and you've had a kid, like, and you still
yeah,
look like this, and you're this old, however old she is, and you still look like you're 20, right? It's You need someone just like that, and it works out well for the writers because I think they play up on that a lot. Like, I
yeah.
think they know what they're working with.
Yeah. And the kind of yeah, the stereotypes and all of that work out too. And I love too in that like the first season, the first couple seasons, they kind of it plays down eventually as the characters kind of get settled into other things, but kind of like how horny they make Phil for Gloria in the first couple seasons is just a great touch too. Like where Phil's just constantly like uh I don't know, like confuses what she says, and then like she thought she was asking him to like touch her dress or whatever, and he like touches it and stuff. Like he was just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like just kind of like yeah, just
Finding any excuse to get a hug from her or something like that.
yeah. Or when like that fight breaks out, I think between the ex-wife and stuff, he's like, I got Gloria, and he like grabs her and rolls on the
Mhm.
couch with her or whatever for like no reason, you know.
Yeah.
Just they make Phil super horny for her, and it's a great bit. And we're gonna get into this too, listeners. I've talked to Eric about this many times about how good Ty Burrell was in this as
Mhm.
Phil. I think overall he got 2 Emmys during the 11 years that he played Phil Dunphy on this
Yeah.
sitcom. Guy should have gotten much more than that. He was so good in that role, especially the mockumentary. Like everyone talks about Jim from The Office, the looks to the camera because it's a mockumentary. Phil
Mhm.
Dunphy's up there with Jim from The Office in terms of his looks to the camera are some of the best comedy, like 3 second, not even like a 1 second look to the camera that is just, I burst out laughing almost every time.
Mhm.
He was just so good at that, especially if he got like embarrassed or something. He would like glance at the camera real quick, like, and it would just be like one
Yeah.
of the best looks. Like,
And even just when they're doing they like the confessional interviews, his when he still will give those same looks, like, and it always conveyed this sort of like boyish innocence
yeah.
about him, this like confidence that is just unshakable, and and also just this sort of blind stupidity that he has that the audience can see. Claire can see it also, but it finds it endearing, and the audience finds it endearing too. So, I mean, I think that's why he's such a well-written character, and he plays that uh, just perfectly.
And the lore about that supposedly is the studio executives did not want Ty Burrell. Like, I guess because he was an unknown, they didn't quite understand. Apparently, the creators had worked with him before on like some projects that nobody has heard of, right?
Mhm.
So they knew who he was, and they said they kind of wrote the part of Phil Dunphy in the pilot for him because they thought he'd be perfect for it. But apparently the studio hated it and like refused to cast him, and they had to like fight with the studio to get Ty Burrell to play Phil Dunphy.
Wow.
Uh, and yeah, I think there was like a documentary made after the series ended where they kind of documented the final season being made. uh I think Ty Burrell says to the camera at one point, he's just like, huh, he's like, I mean, if they didn't fight for me, he's like, I wouldn't be an actor in Hollywood, like I would not have this career at all.
Hmm.
I owe it all to those two guys being like, no, he's the perfect Phil Dunphy. uh
I mean, the whole cast was really nobodies except for Ed O'Neill.
yeah.
I guess Julie Bowen had done a couple sitcoms before that, one and done type
Jerry
thing.
Seinfeld's girlfriend or something on like Seinfeld, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, and she was yeah, a couple like one season sitcoms. But nothing big. Yeah, so yeah, everyone was kind of unknown except for Ed O'Neill. And I
Yeah.
think, his character is so perfect because it really is just Al Bundy if he
Yes.
if he were rich, right? I
Yes.
mean,
Al Bundy 40 years later, basically. Yeah.
yeah, and
Retired
it's
Al
like
Bundy. Yeah. If
retired,
he,
yeah, retired. He's successful. He's got a hot wife, and he's kind of batting out of his league a little bit. Just like obviously Sofia Vergara is more attractive than Peg was, but at the same time, it was like yeah, Al was still batting way out of his league with that. So I kind of yeah, you kind of just get that feel, which most people have seen Married to Children at least a few episodes, and they kind of at least know Al Bundy as this. I mean, to me, he's kind of like a cultural phenomenon. So everyone knows has this image of him, and so it's very easy to like translate that into this Ed O'Neill character, Jay. Uh,
yeah.
just yeah, still played so well by Ed O'Neill. He's always perfect.
And I think it's important too that like that is obviously I think the creators had that in mind too. One, that they always want a big name to sell something like this when you're doing a pilot. But I think you pointing out the connection, because obviously that's Ed O'Neill's most famous role. Um, I always remember him from The Little Giants when I was a kid and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Like,
he was in the two movies I remember him from, which is Little Giants and Dutch.
yeah. uh,
Dutch, Ethan Embry or something. I don't know. I forget who the kid was, but yeah,
but
yeah, those are great Ed
it's
O'Neill films.
important because of that masculine figure of Al Bundy. It's definitely I think everybody had that in mind, like you said, when they were putting Ed O'Neill in there, and it's basically the same character in a different sitcom, give or take, you know.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think that's important in terms of like the masculine figure, particularly the white straight male masculine figure as well. He was a symbol of that. He was a symbol of the kind of patriarch from the sitcom era of previous decades, right? Think of the other sitcoms that happened in like the 10 years before. I mean, you could talk maybe the Charlie Sheen character in Two and a Half Men or something.
Yeah, yeah,
But not quite the same because it wasn't quite as family friendly, but just like the that archetype, like he was meant to embody that archetype, you know, casting Ed O'Neill as the kind of old patriarch in this.
yeah. And also he was just like, again, just like Al, it was like lovable, um but flawed. Like, a flawed character. And like, Jay's flaws come out, and like in even the first episode where, you know, it, you understand that he was uncomfortable about having a gay son. And
Right.
they make a lot of references in the first season about Jay not, fully being able to accept all of that. And but yeah, everyone still loved that character and rooted for that character. Even though he was flawed like that, which back then was like, again, this was 2008 or 9.
Yeah.
Most people did not care about homosexuality. They were, at least in California, like very much in favor of gay
Right.
marriage. No one really cared. We were over that. So, his character sort of did represent that kind of older generation that doesn't understand um, this stuff. But that was okay because he was like a good guy. Other than that, he always tried to be, and you could see that by episode 1. And
Eh,
part of it is just because it's Al Bundy, who was
yeah.
also that lovable but flawed character, right? But also had that thing that, yeah, man, I wish we could, you know be like that or act like that, but society won't really let us anymore, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's coming to come up too because this was pre-gay marriage legalization, which
Mm.
is just, I mean, it happened not even that long ago, but it feels like it was like 50 years ago or something, you know, like when that
Yeah.
happened, and it's just like so normal and ubiquitous now. Even just like, you know, what was it, like 13 years ago or something? That was it like
It was like
2012
what,
when that was passed? I think,
2014,
yeah, even, yeah,
2018 was that?
damn.
I don't know if I forget when, but it
Yeah,
was.
around then. And the
Mm.
portrayal, like you put that, when we first meet Cam and Mitch, you know, the gay couple on this, like they're on a plane, and like, yeah, they show this like two different dynamics where Mitchell, the son of Ed O'Neill's character in this, like kind of is takes more offense. Every little thing he thinks is some kind of mark against being like, oh, the gay couple on the plane with the baby, like everyone's judging them, but
Yeah.
like they're like not, you know, and like Cam is the one that's like, well, you know, like, and even I think there's later episode where he's yelling at his dad for because he introduced Cam to his old club friends at the golf club as his son's friend and not his son's partner or something.
Yeah.
He was like uncomfortable with the talk introducing him as like, you know, my son's husband or friend or partner, and Cam is more forgiving than Mitchell is about it, you know, because Cam's just like, oh, he's of that generation, you know, he's trying, like, you know, it's can't be easy for him, blah blah blah. It was very sympathetically portrayed whenever the Ed O'Neill character Jay in the show is having a hard time with his son being gay.
Mhm.
And it is something that I think is, you know, it's easy to look back on now because it wasn't quite, everybody kind of immediately jumps to those like 1960s stereotypes or something, where if you're, or maybe, I mean, I don't know, the gay guys put in the comments if you had an experience like this. I mean, maybe it depends where you lived or something, but you know, if you were living in Southern California, you know, by the 90s, 80s, 90s to early 2000s, um, it wasn't quite the same kind of like if your father was uncomfortable with that, it wasn't like this disowning thing like it was previous decades, you know, where your father would be like, "You're not my son anymore" or something. but it was just a little bit hard for these older men to be like, oh my God, my son gets fucked in the ass. Like, like kind of just like a little bit like difficult for them to like
Yeah.
grapple with that. But like obviously they still love their kid dearly and like, all of that. Like they weren't disowning them and stuff like the old days. Although maybe like I said, maybe it depended where you lived. If you were
But
living, somewhere
I,
real rural, you might get that might still have been happening, but I don't know.
I mean, that's what I love about what they have about Cam's character is like, he
Yeah.
grew up in like Missouri on a farm, which, this is all believable. He played football in high school, offensive line, he's tall, big, so sure. And like that's all like a very like believable background for his character. And so when he understands Jay more, he's like, oh, well, I kind of grew up with people who don't accept homosexuality. They're really good people.
Right.
So, you cut them a little slack and, they're going to eventually get there. You just got to give them some time. So he's
And I
more optimistic, whereas like Mitchell's just grown up in California his whole life. So he's,
right.
just kind of used to like everyone accepting it, which, you bring up this scene. And I think it's kind of one of the first scenes that we meet Cam and Mitchell in the first episode where they're on
Yeah.
the plane. They're bringing Lily back, their
Their
adopted,
adopted
yeah,
Vietnamese daughter.
yeah, their adopted Vietnamese daughter. And like I guess Cam was he was not on the plane yet, and he comes rushing back saying, "Oh, well, I just had there's a bakery open. I had to get some pastries." And he sits down with Lily, and then a passenger comes by and says, "Oh, look at the that cute baby with the cream puffs."
With those two cream
And,
puffs. Yeah.
and he, Mitchell takes it the wrong way, and he's like, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. People are just so openly homophobic." And he starts to get up and he makes a speech about how I don't know, he
Right.
gets
Don't be bigoted. Yeah.
yeah, he gets a couple sentences in, and then he's like, "Oh my God," like and then he
Cam shows
looks,
him he's
and
literally holding like two cream puffs and the baby, like
yeah,
actual pastries.
yeah, they came back from the bakery, and the baby's holding cream puffs in her hand, and it's like, yeah, that's what the couple was referring to. I mean,
Dude, that's
one of
the
the
cold
funniest
open to the
scenes.
pilot. That
Yeah,
happens, and then Cam's like kind of sits up like real sheepish. She's like, "We'd like to pay for everybody's headsets," and then like sits down,
yeah.
and then it cuts to the music and like the intro, like kind of
I mean, it's
yeah.
one of the funniest scenes. I mean, maybe in that season, and it's just like that's how you meet them, and that really draws you into their characters because also you know how it's going to be written.
Yeah,
Like they
and
weren't afraid to make those jokes.
right. And like it keeps coming up with that too. And I think even in the later seasons, because they do chronicle when gay marriage passes in the kind of US at large, there's a whole episode where Mitch and Cam get married. And Mitch and Cam's father, this old Missouri farm guy, is like even more, very homophobic and like doesn't accept his son. And then he and Jay kind of bond over like, being, loving their children, but obviously being just like not understanding like what a gay man's like sexual like attractions are and things.
Yeah, yeah, they're all
Uh,
arguing over who's more masculine.
right, exactly. Like who pitches and who catches. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is kind of a throwback to, yeah, like the kind of older, more homophobic time. Yeah.
yeah.
Who's the woman, basically? And right. Like, and that's like the stereotype that they're trying to break or whatever. And to do quite well, I think, with the woman in the gay relationship, and this kind of plays out through season one, is Cam. But then they make him this kind of, yeah, football guy, sports guy, like, but also, all the typical gay things too. So he's in the musical theater and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
arranging flower,
honestly,
yeah,
Mitchell just comes across as more of the man
right,
because Cam is just like, even the way he screams like a
right,
girl and everything.
yeah,
And one thing the only thing I don't appreciate, and this pops up in one episode every season, was Cam's character. He's supposed to be this, farm boy, football background, but yeah, he likes. But all he talks about really throughout the show is just how great he was at football and being
right,
on the
yeah,
farm. Right? And then they bring up that he had this past life as a clown. I hate this. I hate it. Only thank God it's only one episode a season, but they
Right,
always bring back Fizbo the clown,
right.
and it's just so annoying. And I just don't believe it. Like I just don't believe that this guy would ever be like a clown when it's not like so for Phil they have him his secret background is he was like really into magic and was like trying to be a professional magician, and you could kind of believe that, like,
Yeah.
yeah, he was kind of a nerd like that. And
It's a little Michael Scott-esque.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
But the clown for Cam, I just can't picture it, and it just seems forced every time. The episode this season was actually good because everything that wasn't like Fizbo related was hilarious. But yeah, there are isolated episodes in the next seasons. I know it's just like it's all Fizbo. I can't stand it. It's really the one thing that I would change about the show is just get rid of Cam's Fizbo arc.
Yeah, yeah. And like but I think you're right about like how they kind of, and especially how they play these characters with, I was thinking about this with the male characters specifically. And this is, again, this is 2009. Probably most of the episodes are written in 2008. So again, listeners, this is hindsight, right? This is not like conscious thing happening that I think the writers were thinking of, but it just kind of shows the start of this stuff where there was sort of denigrating the white straight male in a way. And again, it is not like I'm saying, oh, this is awful. That's not how it plays out in the episode. I was just thinking, like, if we're putting this lens over it, you can see the beginnings of it. The way Jay is always, oh, well, Jay's the old white man, so he's a little bigoted, right? Or oh, Phil's the young white man, so he's a little goofy, like can't dance, or I don't know, something like that. It was just kind of these little things, all good humored, all done in good taste in the show and all of that. But I was just thinking, like, this is the early stages, like before we got to the full blown woke stuff.
Yeah,
Because, like we already pointed out, the humor, like the gay humor, you could make little gay quips, and it was funny. It was like a little bit that would happen. It was funny, funny. And I think in that pilot episode, there's even a reference to gay names. It's like a joke, right? Where he's just like, oh, he's like, man, our friends, like, because like Cam and Mitch, like their friends' name are like Longinus, Pepper, Andre. And he's just
yeah,
like, oh God,
Longinus.
maybe we should stop having friends with names like Longinus. Like, like kind of like, it's like,
Yeah,
oh, that's a gay name, like,
but then there's I think it's this season. Sorry if it's not, but there's an episode where Jay he goes to the bar and ends up hanging out with Mitchell's, gay friends,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Longinus
yeah.
and Pepper. Like, Nathan Lane is Pepper. The
Yeah,
show didn't get a big name for that. But yeah, and Jay actually gets along with them more because they know about like old songs and like
right.
old movies, right? And that's what he's into. So yeah, he gets along with them more than Cam and Mitchell do, even.
That, the racial humor and stuff that you could, it was more acceptable, is what I guess what I'm trying to say, is like to have these kind of jokes and everybody got a joke about them. And it wasn't like anything was off limits. I'm thinking, even because I just was rewatching those last couple episodes of first season last night, when they try to do that portrait, when Claire is obsessed with doing that portrait, I think this is like episode 21 or something,
Oh
24.
yes.
Might be the finale. I think it might be the season finale, actually, that
Well, the
portrait.
finale of the Hawaii two-part thing.
Yeah. And they like, there's just a scene where like the sprinklers come on, and Jay turns to Gloria and just says, he's like, how do you turn these things off? And she's like, what? Because, like, I'm Latin, I'm Latino, therefore I know how all gardening equipment works. And then Jay was just like, no, you were here when they installed it. Like, like kind of like, he's like, I wasn't here. And then she's like,
Yeah,
oh yeah. Like it kind of like, just that was a quick little bit. It doesn't matter to the plot at all. It's just a little joke in there. And it's just like something like that, where if that joke was pitched in a writer's room now, it just wouldn't pit past all the people, it would be
yeah,
batted
yeah.
down. Yeah.
Because it's making fun of sensitivities of minorities, right? Like it's making fun of how sensitive minorities are to like
Right.
every little thing. I mean, it's same with the cream puffs joke. Like,
Right.
that was about homosexuals, and this one's about Latinos. um I mean, I'm sure I can't think of one offhand, but I know there's stuff about Jay and his age.
Right. Exactly. Or
you
like
know
Phil and all of that. Uh, But even like I was thinking like even that pilot episode, like that great Phil line when they introduce Lily to the family, the little adopted Vietnamese baby. Phil says something like, "Oh, her name's Lily," and Phil's like, "Well, won't that be difficult for her to say?" Like kind of
Yeah.
like, like just like a joke about Asian accents.
And
And then at the end,
it doesn't even really register because I don't even think I noticed that until
right?
this rewatch. Um, because it just like he just says that and then they're on to like another piece of dialogue by someone else about a different topic. It's just
Right.
sort of
It's just a
al-
one-liner. Yeah.
almost a throwaway line.
Yeah.
But if you hear it, and it's like, oh,
If you're hearing this, it's because you are listening to the free public feed of Heavy Board. To get complete, uncensored, uninterrupted, full access to this podcast, become a subscriber at patreon.com/heavyboard. That's right, Heavy Board is made possible by subscribers like you. For less than 1 cup of coffee per month, you will receive private access to uncensored, full-length episodes, Jerk Shop, heavy bonus content, subscribers-only AMA episodes, bonus extended interviews, and more. Come join the conversation today at patreon.com/heavyboard.
that's brilliant.
It's a
Like,
joke. Yeah, it's a
it's
great
great.
joke. And it implies how kind of dumb Phil is, right? It implies Phil being a little dumb and stuff too, but it's also just a great joke on like a classic kind of L's being difficult to pronounce for
Yes,
native
yeah.
Asian speakers. And even at the end, I think when at that first pilot, I think it's Jay, that O'Neill character, who's saying like, "Oh, come here," like what does he say? I said, calls the baby like my little pot sticker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Uh, and like that wouldn't be allowed in a writer's room now, but it's a great little joke and it's endearing. Like it was like this is I guess the point I'm trying to make is like even the racial humor, it was done in an endearing way, like a loving way, especially for a blended family like that. I hate that term. That's like I feel like that's a modern term for
Yeah, it
like
is. It
this
is.
bullshit of like, oh, you marry like a Latino and have mixed race children. Well, it's blended. It's like, what the fuck are you? No, it's not. Like, okay, whatever.
It's just yeah,
It's
it's a family.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
It's
It's
just
just the
yeah,
normal thing
it's
that
just a family.
happens. Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to specify blended. Like it's
Yeah.
so stupid. Yeah.
It was just an endearing way, and it was and I'm thinking even like later seasons when Kevin Hart plays their neighbor and kind of like a reoccurring guest star thing. There's always jokes between him and Phil about it, being like the
Mhm.
white and black guy kind of like as neighbors. I don't know. It was just such a it makes the show richer because it makes it feel more endearing in this way. It's like it's not a negative. It wasn't always a negative thing. Obviously, there are people that would do it negatively, but usually by the time in sitcom writing by 2009, nobody was doing that in like a
Mhm.
negative way. Okay,
No.
we were so far beyond that at this point. It was just good writing. Uh, yeah, just fantastic, dude. And then the
Yeah.
episode two, where no, please go on before I.
Oh no, I was gonna say because that pot sticker line, it's like I mean, no one got like Mitchell, Cam, they didn't get offended by it. Like it
Right.
was just no, it was sort of like a joke that the audience was supposed to laugh at, but the family was like, actually, you know what? We're kind of surprised Jay's like now accepting our daughter and like, our I guess they couldn't legally be married yet, but they were essentially married, right?
Right.
Um,
And it was endearing, like when he
yeah,
says it, he's like leaning down towards his granddaughter and like going, "Oh, little baby, come here, my little," like kind of
yeah, and
pinching
it's
the
just like
cheeks.
yeah, and it just sort of just showed like, oh yeah, you can have that humor and like not go after people. Whereas
Right.
now it'd be like, oh, we can't have that because then we would need to write a whole scene where Cam and Mitch would get offended and they have to make a speech about how bad that is. Or, and we have to make that humorous and that's going to be difficult to do. So we're just going to cut the line or whatever. Um, yeah, it just really showed how things really were back then. It was a great reflection of the times.
It
And again,
shows.
they say like the last great, American sitcom. It's like that's part of it too. It really is an accurate
Yeah.
reflection of the times.
That's part of it too, because especially these first couple seasons, I think really do document the kind of thriving multicultural, liberal society that America was before these kind of institutional wokeness became this thing. Like it really does show that. And I get it, this is a tired thing to say nowadays, listeners, but like just go back and watch that first season and just be nostalgic for the world that once was, where like even on our sitcoms, this was considered endearing, kind of, and as long as it didn't get too nasty, right? Nobody was being nasty about it, although maybe some people were. But I mean, even in your friends group, dude, like I played sports, so we playing with all kinds of people. Like we were always doing quips like this, like always doing little quips.
Yeah,
It was
same.
just,
Yeah.
and it was endearing stuff. We were teammates. We loved, we were friends. Like we liked each other. Like we would hang out and like play video games over each other's houses and shit. But it would always be these little quips, and nobody thought anything of it. And it wasn't until we were told to think anything of it. But the point I was trying to make off of what you said was that other thing is we'll get throughout this whole running series now doing the Modern Family seasons, that like the writing does shift to be about that online world at a certain point in the writing, and we'll get to that with the specific examples when we get to the later seasons, listeners. But like where it starts to shift from being about interpersonal kind of, Seinfeld-esque funny little interpersonal interactions with like your friends or family or people you interact with on the street, to social shame becomes like the thing you're trying to avoid, because of the online world. And this happens slowly and then all at once, like I said, because even I think in the early seasons, there's a few episodes where Phil does something stupid and it goes viral on YouTube. Early days of YouTube. Uh, but yeah, that and just, yeah, I mean, it just how things have shifted, even from the writing to how they would cast a show like this nowadays, to how they would it's just like the a perfect documentation of the old world transitioning into the world that is now,
Mhm.
throughout this whole series. Because I think even about like how sexual it is, and again, it's not raunchy, but there is sexual innuendo. There is male sexuality is allowed, right? Particularly white straight male sexuality. So I'm thinking even episode 2, there was like the hot neighbor with the huge jugs.
Oh yeah.
And Phil is
Wait,
like being weird, but he's afraid that like Claire is gonna know he finds this woman attractive.
I mean, no, Phil's open flirting with women,
Yeah.
and also, I mean, with Gloria also. It's just like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, like his wife just like sort of just turns away and just sort of like, oh my God, yeah,
When they're
Phil's
talking to her
wanting
in
to
the
get to
beginning,
someone
dude,
else,
and he
whatever,
because
you
he's like
know.
a realtor and he's like talking to her. She's like, "Oh, I just moved in." He's like, "Oh, the 4 bedroom, blah." And he's like, "Oh, I bet you're loving that steam shower." He's like saying
Yeah.
that to her while he's like leaning on the bike, and she's like, "Phil, you're being weird,"
Yeah.
and it is. It's like a weird thing to say
Yeah.
to
No,
this
yeah.
like
And that was
huge
like,
jug hot woman. Yeah.
it was just like the second episode,
Yeah.
it was,
Exactly.
uh, no, also, one of my favorite episodes, so episode 4, the incident, and that's when Shelley Duvall, I believe, yeah, Mitchell's mother visits, and they talk about the incident that she made when Jay and Gloria were getting married, and that's kind of in the background. But one of my favorite things is also Dylan first gets to meet the
Yes.
family, who's Haley's boyfriend, and
Yes.
he sings. Everyone's like, he I forget what he but it's just he seems like a sweetheart. Everyone likes him, and then he's like, I want to. Do you mind if I sing a song that I wrote about Haley? And they're like, yeah, let's go for it. And so he brings out his acoustic guitar, and he sings this song um, called "The Moonlight," and the chorus is, "I just want to do you."
Yeah.
It's just like,
And he's like performing it to the family, and they're like
he's
cutting around to all the family sitting on the couch, like watching it.
about he just wants to do their
Yeah.
daughter.
Dylan
I
is a
think,
great cast too, dude. And the
oh,
fact
it's
that
so
he like
good.
somehow they write him to like stick around for 11 seasons is so great too. Like,
And it's not even like that's not even just the stereotype. Like guys like that totally existed. And everyone's like, dude, I had ex-girlfriends who eventually dated guys like that. And it's just like, you see them, they're like, oh my God. Like, just like a complete moron art, art guy, rock and roll guy. And it lasts like, a month or whatever because they're just fucking stupid. And like that's sort of what Dylan is. Like he's
Yeah.
candy, for on and off throughout the entire series, I believe.
And it's like they allow, again, he's a white straight male. He's
Mhm.
allowed to pursue a sexual interest. He's allowed to talk about a sexual interest. There's like a running bit in the first couple seasons about how he has like a sex dream about, Haley's hot mom, the Julie
Yeah,
Bowen character. Yeah. Claire, and like stuff. And that like is kind of a running bit that keeps coming up.
yeah,
And like stuff like that. It just like that has it's just something that was there. It's always, I mean, it's still there, but you just can't put it into sitcoms anymore. At least from that angle, it has to be changed into something, like naked, kind of just like basic male sexuality just isn't allowed.
yeah.
And I mean, yeah, this kind of, I think Jay does this too, where Jay's character is meant to stand in with kind of the family ganging up on him
Mhm.
for his, boomer kind of, banish and shame him for their kind of, cold, bigoted, selfish behavior. And I think it's in that episode where he flies the plane to like Phil's head.
Oh yes,
Uh,
yeah. Episode
and I
three,
was, yeah,
something.
something
Three.
like that. But he's being like pushed to be like, oh, you're being too much of a man about this, right? Like you're being too much of a old boomer man. And even Phil, right? Like the other straight white male character has to be portrayed as this kind of goof idiot, the days of Al Bundy are over in sitcoms, essentially.
Yes, yeah.
That kind
Yeah,
of
I
stuff.
mean, Jay's character is always interesting. One of my favorite episodes around him is episode 12, where it's Barkley, the dog butler statue that he has in the
Yeah.
house that Gloria hates. And there's like some great physical comedy camera work going on where
Yes.
he's in the background trying to repair Barkley's coat, and so he's got him like bent over, like, and there's just like, you know, Gloria's making, uh, she's talking like her dialogue is something about how Jay loves the statue more than her, and he's in the background just sort of like, and it looks like he's like just having anal sex with this dog, like bent over, and like that's the joke, and it's hilarious. It's great physical comedy.
It's
Um,
classic
yeah,
sitcom misunderstanding, right? Like certain events coming together to make it look one way, right? Like the
yes,
misunderstanding that causes the conflict. I think by the end of that episode, he's like, she makes him get rid of that dog and he like takes it to Cam and Mitch's and then like he's like standing in front of an altar, like holding its hands. He's like, oh, Gloria. And it looks like he's trying to marry it or something.
yeah.
And she just
I
kind of like looks disgusted and leaves the room. He's like, what? What's going on? Like, I'm getting rid of it. Like,
The
uh,
whole thing is like a running bit throughout the show because you'll see it like it's in his office later
yeah.
on or something. And so they sort of keep that joke alive, which is I never noticed when I was watching it like weekly, um, is that there's a lot of callbacks to other episodes, like the
Yeah.
thing with the broken step on their house, or like that. There's always a callback, like every other episode, to
Yeah.
like fixing the step or something about that. There, but
The
yeah, a
rumor
lot
on
of
that step, I've heard the lore on that. I don't know if it's true or not, is that Ty Burrell tripped in the pilot going up the steps for one of those scenes.
mhm.
And he like kind of ad-libbed the line, oh, I gotta fix that step as he was doing it, because he could have
Yeah,
just tripped trying to save the scene as like the take they were doing. And then it just became like a running gag that like the writers would purposely put in there because of Ty Burrell like ad-libbing as he like tripped up the steps during like a take.
yeah.
That's the lore of it. And then they just
Okay.
kept bringing it back supposedly because it works so well, as like, oh, this is the family house with that broken step, and it just works as like a trope with that kind of stuff. I mean, dude, the nostalgia's everywhere in this too. Like camcorders, you see like they're doing
Mhm.
home videos. They cut to home videos from like, 10, 20 years ago. That scene where Dee Dee blows up on Jane Gloria's wedding is like a home movie, like kind of grainy flashback,
Yeah.
like filmed on a camcorder. And it's yeah, it's because yes, smartphone exists. Far smartphones existed, but they were not ubiquitous yet. It was still kind of becoming part of the culture where everybody had one. All your grandparents had a smartphone. That was not the case. We literally called them camera phones because it was like putting a camera on a phone was a new thing
Yeah.
before the smartphone came out. But yeah, that just nostalgia, home videos, even the way they use those. Like, and again, it's just has to do with the time period because people were still doing it that way. Now they just exist as like 5-minute clips on your phone that nobody ever sees,
Yeah.
uh, unless you make the effort to like edit them all together and like show them to the family. Uh, but yeah, I mean, we have the, and again, I don't want to overstress the kind of the white male straight thing because it's not overstressed in this. I just want to point out that it was just, it was the very early beginnings of this, seeping into the culture, kind of the beginnings of woke, we already said this. Yeah, the
But
Asian pediatrician where Cam's like falling over himself to prove that he's like, with it and not racist and like thinks that like her
Mhm.
culture is important, and she's like, I'm from Denver. Like, like
Yes,
kind of
yeah.
like, yeah. They like make a joke out of it. Like this like Cam's being a
Yeah,
fool, making a
that
fool of
was a great
himself.
one. Also, you mentioned earlier the episode where I think is Mitchell thinks that one of Jay's friends is gay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's Chaz Palminteri is the friend. So again, another big name in the first season. Um, and yeah, it's just because he's single. He's into fashion. Uh, yeah, and always asks them where they got their clothes or compliments them on how good they look. And again, Jay is shown as this like a very compassionate guy who's like willing to confront his friend, asking him like, "Are you gay?" You
Right.
know, when it turns out he's just like really in debt or something, and that's like what his problem was. Um,
Yeah,
even
he's
though
like,
it
I'm
had
20
nothing to
grand
do
into
with
a bookie. I need
yeah.
you to loan me 20 grand. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that's just a great episode, and it really shows like Jay's compassion. So they really were like in tune to that, which makes sense for the time. I don't think they were trying to like portray white men as
Right. Yeah.
evil all the time.
It wasn't at that level yet. It wasn't there
No,
yet. It does happen eventually.
but
In
there
the
is
in the
some,
but like
yeah,
yeah.
the later episodes, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But also in that same episode 13, Phil has to make up songs for Claire and
Right.
how to use the remote on the TV.
That's
And again, this
that's
is another one
great,
of those
dude.
like those tropes that like keep coming up through a few other seasons where Claire has to teach someone how to use the TV and she's like, okay, here's the song that Phil taught me how to use it. And like you would never really know that. Like watching week to week, you just sort of forget stuff.
Right.
But like when you're watching it, oh, it's all close together within a matter of just like a couple weeks. You can go through a few seasons. You really notice a lot of the callbacks and like him having to make
Dude,
up like
that's
my
great.
simple wife can only understand things if I put them into a little song for her. Is
And
just very like that misogyny kind of comes through, which is great.
and dude, the song itself is great because it's like a little kid song. He's like, input one is the
Yeah.
cable box, cable box. Like, he did the same
Yeah.
thing with like the thermostat, where he's like, the
Yes.
snowflake makes it cold, cold, cold. He's like, the set temperature makes it hold, hold, hold.
It's so patronizing. Yeah, it's great.
But it also calls back to like the technology at that time, like the universal remotes and shit that they
Mhm.
were advertising. Again, this is pre being able to just do everything from your phone. Like it was kind of confusing. Like it was kind of like ridiculously complicated if you wanted to have like a universal remote in your living room or something to work the
Yeah.
stereo, the TV, the lights, whatever it is. Like, but I love how they make that part of Phil's character too. He's like a tech guy, he's into like the latest tech that's coming out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm thinking of, an episode I always remember very distinctly. I think about it often is when they have to go under the house, Phil and Luke, and
Mm.
Phil's like afraid to go under the house, but he doesn't want to tell Luke, his son, that like he's afraid. So he's like
Yeah.
trying to like come up with reasons to not go under the house.
Mhm.
And then eventually Luke goes under by himself and he's just like, Dad, hurry, I'm stuck. And he's like, oh
Yeah.
man, he like gotta go under. He's like, hurry, there are spiders. And he kind of jumps back a minute before he goes back in. Like it's just so good. Like Ty
Yeah.
Burrell is just so good at those little mannerisms.
Mhm.
Or when he's like stuck in the porta potty with that mustache.
Yes.
And like Claire's like old friend is like coming by. He's like, "Oh, you look great. Oh, I can't even see you. Come over here." And he's like stuck in that porta potty with the mustache.
Yeah, such a good actor.
Dude, it's like great little things that line up like that too, where he's just like saying, he's they're like, what are you doing in there, honey? He's just concluding a little business. Where it's like he was literally on the phone with someone, but then also like he's in a porta potty, so like it like works in so many different ways, but everybody takes it as he just dumped in this porta potty
Yeah.
because he's stuck in it. Like just great, great stuff. I mean, again, just speaks to how good the writing is. Like I remember there was another part in that documentary where it was about, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before when I talk about good sitcom writing, where it was a throwaway line, right? There was about the writers in the writers' room, and it was that scene I think in season one where Mitch and Cam have Lily, and they're not sleeping. Might be in season two, and they're doing the confessional cam, and they're saying something about I
Mhm.
think we got like 6 seconds of sleep last night or something like that, as they're
Mhm.
saying to it, and Cam's like asleep during the confessional.
Yeah.
But like when the writers were coming up with that, apparently the writer pitched that line, because they're coming up with one-liners all the time, little one-line jokes, and the head writer was just like, okay, he's like, that's good, that's funny. 6 seconds of sleep. He's like, but is it great? Like, is it the best we could do for this little one-liner, And then
Mhm.
they just workshopped it, till they got a funnier line. And I was just thinking, yeah, like that is the art of sitcom, writer's room, writing a television series is that, right? Everybody's pitching comedy bits, everybody's pitching a little one-liners, but it's always about the head writer being like, okay, is this the best we can do? Is this the funniest, thing we can put right in this little 3-second clip here, uh,
Yeah.
the best of our ability, writing this. And again, they're doing what? I mean, this is 24 episode seasons. I mean, that's a lot of writing, man. That's a lot of original writing. It's just a craft level to the show that I think we don't see anymore. Even in like the modern sitcoms. I'm trying to think of like what's like a big sitcom on now. I don't really. I mean, do you know any like what's like a big
Sitcom. I mean, Abbott Elementary.
Abbott Elementary? Yeah,
I
okay,
think that's the
that's
biggest
probably.
one I can think of.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Like on normal television, ABC, NBC, CBS,
right.
Fox. Yeah.
That isn't
Um,
like, yeah, Chicago Fire or whatever.
yeah, one of the NCIS or yeah, one
Yeah,
of
it's like a
those.
straight up sitcom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I guess I do hear about that show from time to time. I don't really watch it. I've seen an episode here or there. Uh,
I've seen like two or three episodes and I didn't really care for it. All my coworkers, they're teachers, so they
right,
love it. Right. So they always talk about it. But again, it still is not like appointment viewing. I don't hear about it every week. I just hear
right.
someone talk about it every now and then, you know. It's
When there's
not,
like a good bit or something, yeah.
yeah, it's just no one watches things on the same schedule anymore. So you don't
That,
really talk about that at work.
that's part of it too. Like we said already, listeners, that like there is this like it partly through no fault of the show's own it just fell into this like weird cultural shift that was happening, where part of that is the just viewing habits, right? Like no sitcom can ever be as big as Modern Family again, just because of the way people watch TV now, like which is a shame, because even if you had somebody like the creators, coming up with a great idea and having great written pilots and stuff and perfect casting for a TV series and stuff, would it even get the audience it deserves nowadays? And I guess the answer is no, right? I mean, just because, and again, not because people hate sitcoms, it's just because of the way people view things now, even Game of Thrones and stuff like, that was appointment TV. Uh, and that might have been maybe the last big drama series that like everybody was like, I have to watch the latest episode as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And
Or people
that's
talked about it the next day.
right. And that started pre-streaming and carried on into the streaming era. Yeah. At least the beginnings of the streaming era. And yeah,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
that's I mean, yeah, and I mean, maybe part of it is it's almost an elegy for that appointment TV culture, you know? I don't know. So I'm almost saddened by it a little bit too, because I think it is maybe an elegy for that. Because, I was just talking to my wife about this where something came up and I was just telling her, I was like, like TV used to be, I mean, it still is like, I love TV. I love movies and TV. But I remember like, yeah, like rushing home from school to like watch Dragon Ball Z or something, you know? And it like,
Mhm.
yeah, you had to catch it at that time or you wouldn't be able to watch it that day, you know?
Yeah.
I remember being on vacation, and this was like 2008-ish with my family. So I was in college, but I was the only one in my family that was watching Breaking Bad. Again, pre-streaming. So if you didn't catch it when it aired, you were waiting to watch that for a while.
Yeah. That was a big one too. Yeah. People talked about Breaking Bad. Yeah.
You'd have to
Great.
look up the TV guide to when it rerun or something later that night or the next day, or you would just have to wait till the DVDs came out. Yeah.
Yeah. You had to be careful what you read because there were going to be, people were
Yeah.
writing about the ending or, what happened in the show. And yeah.
And it was the final season, and we were at like a beach, Ocean City, Maryland. We were at a beach house, and the whole family staying together in a big, beach house. And I remember it was me and my brother's girlfriend at the time. We're just like we literally left what everybody else was doing to like watch one of those final episodes of Breaking Bad, like that Thursday or something, because you just couldn't watch it otherwise. And we were the only two that were like following it out of everyone in the family.
Mhm.
So, we just put it on in the living room or whatever and like watching it. But like, I just remember being like, yeah, like I loved that feeling. It was it was such a great feeling, like looking forward to a TV show and then like making the effort to like watch it on time and just loving it, like loving every minute of that and being so like satisfied by the end of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was like my whole childhood. Like, I
Right.
mean, we had shows like Alf to
Yeah.
Home Improvement, Married
Home
with Children.
improvement,
Again,
dude.
Married with Children is like my favorite show of all time. So, I mean, it's
That's
just
right. And
to all,
where we should link
just
this
all
too.
your
Eric has a
generations.
whole podcast episode on TPN with Jack
Oh yeah.
talking about this. We'll link it below too, as part of the lore. Because I mean, you already mentioned Al Bundy. I mean, there was this archetype in like the kind of sitcoms and
Mhm.
stuff. I think that plays into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just like, yeah, I always talked about that with my friends, and you had to be, if someone missed it, we'd fill them in, but again, you couldn't, like, the reruns were in the summer, so you'd have to wait a while. And if you missed it in the summer, man, you may never see that show. No, may not see that episode ever again. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember that with the X-Files too. That was a big one for me. Like
Yeah.
every episode had to see it because all of my friends were into it.
Cultural
And that's what
phenomenon.
we
Yeah.
talking about the next day, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, just yeah,
And
it's
it was just such a satisfying experience. Yeah. That little thing you were anticipating every week.
the the time that has vanished, and it was
Yeah.
so magical.
Yeah.
Yeah, just having what you were going to talk about with your friends the very next day. It was whatever show was on the previous night that you guys liked. It was always something on every night,
And
usually.
the writing was just better. Like the writing, the writers' rooms, they were just better. Okay, like I'm gonna say that. Like this is gonna be a great example of it because this is a great writers' room too, and even they couldn't stop from falling victim to some of the online stuff because it was everywhere. But it was just like, watching some of these great shows like we just mentioned, classic TV shows, huge cultural phenomenon TV shows. You know, there were some stinker episodes, especially when you're watching it all together in the streaming era. It's a little easier to see like the weaker episodes because you're just going boom, 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 and especially if it's like sandwiched between two better episodes or something. But whatever. They're writing like 24 of these. Like that's a lot for original storylines. But it's just such better quality. It's just a better quality program, the craft of TV writing was taken more seriously than it is now. Where, people use that phrase now, slop, right? Netflix slop. And it really is that, right? They're not hiring as many writers, so the writing's not as good. They're not hiring, they're not spending as much time on the writing, so the writing's not as good, right? They want it to happen faster. So they're not taking the time to develop these bits and things. Um, I've been noticing it. My wife and I are watching the Gilded Age, that HBO show, and the writing on that is like subpar, but there are parts and pieces of dialogue that are really good. And it's so disappointing because it's such a great concept for a show. It has so much drama that could be played out in, and they're just not doing it. And I'm kind of getting frustrated with it. But I was just thinking to myself, so they had little pieces that were good. I'm like, they probably have like one really good writer in that writer's room who writes some of these great dialogue pieces that I'm hearing that I'm like, that's great. But the overall majority of the writer's room probably can't hack it. And it's just crazy thinking that HBO is letting that go to waste. Like that could be the next Game of Thrones if they
Mhm.
wrote it right.
Yeah.
And like like an Edith Wharton novel or something, it would be one of the biggest shows on TV. But it's such shitty kind of writing that it's not, even though there are great parts. And I'm just thinking of like, yeah, like this lost art of television writing. Like
Oh,
you
well,
see
I
but
mean,
the X-Files, Vince Gilligan wrote
mhm.
so many of those episodes in like the first 5 seasons or whatever. Like it was just these great writers were being crafted there and would go on to make great stuff, after that too. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
go
mean,
on, go on.
I hear Vince Gilligan's new one is really good, even though I
Me
don't.
too, yeah.
I think it's on. I don't, it's on some streaming
Like
service.
Apple, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. I should
I don't
just
have that
subscribe.
either, dude. I can't justify subscribing. I subscribe to so many now. Like,
Yeah, and it's just like maybe when the whole series is released, I'll subscribe and binge it and quit. But it's called like what uh pop
Clubberous or something.
Pluribus. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm saying
Pluribus?
that
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
Pluribus. Yeah,
yeah,
Pluribus.
yeah.
But yeah, I hear that's good. But yeah, I haven't seen it. But I mean, I think the reason why like there's no good writing rooms. Are there writing rooms anymore? Like it used to
Yeah,
be that there were just four networks, right? It was
right.
ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox. And I mean, the cool thing about Fox is like they were the underdog, so that's why Married with Children was so good. Like their writing room was just like, we have to be better than these three
Right.
other established networks. Like we have to compete.
And then like Conan and all that crew with the Simpsons and stuff, like in
Yeah,
the
so
early
yeah, then The
90s. Yeah.
Simpsons it went, yeah, that was the other thing that gave them the edge. And then Cops came around, and then they found a way around the writing room, but it was still again what a great show. Um, but uh, yeah, so there was just those four, so it was a lot more competitive.
Right.
Now it's like you think like adding more would be make it more competitive, but it's not when there's so many. It just makes
Right.
it almost turns it all into like a slush of worthless slop.
Right.
And that's kind of what it's become because I mean, you just have the worst stuff getting the best ratings. And we don't even know what ratings are anymore. Like some of those
Right.
streaming services do not release their numbers, or it's inaccurate, or it's based on like
Right.
if someone just watched 2 seconds of a show.
Or it's the views. It's
Yeah.
like social media where there's the views and then there's the engagement, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's all different. It used to just be the Nielsen ratings. There
Right.
was whether it was flawed or not, and there were some flaws in that. Like at
Right.
least it was based on one consistent measuring tool. Oh, you just don't really have that, and they're the good one of the good things is that yeah, there are shows that like cater to a niche market, right? And that
Yeah.
can be cool. But now you just have just so much on there that is like one season and done, and some of
Mini
these
series.
companies
Yeah.
just do not care whether they make it or not. It's just as long as they have one or two hits to keep their service afloat, they'll keep doing it. And like, yeah, most companies do have at least like, two or three that are making them a lot of money and they can just throw money at a bunch of
Right.
trash. And that's why it's gotten so competitive. Who cares about like a writing team?
Right.
There's one person writing a script, and then there's one person who's editing it, and maybe they'll like make some agreements on how the final draft should look. But usually it's yeah, one or two people now, and they're rushing it through. And
Yeah.
it's not the person who originally created the show. It's always like some Shonda Rhimes thing where it's like I wrote the first script and I'm just
Sell the
going to
pilot. Yeah.
hand it off to someone else and then move on and make the next show.
Take the check. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where you get a lot of that money. I know Shonda Rhimes is worth like something like 300 million or something, right? Because
I mean, she
she's
does
a
like,
master at that.
oh,
Just
yeah.
writing a pilot, selling it, and then you're forever getting checks because you're listed as the creator on like the show. So if it takes off, for
I
10
think,
years, you're just getting checks for years.
I think Grey's Anatomy is still on the air, isn't it?
Yeah. I think they're on
I
like
mean, it's been
season
on the air
26 or
since I was
something.
like, I don't know, before I was like, when I
I
was in
was in middle,
college.
yeah, I was like middle school, high school. Yeah. So
Jesus,
yeah,
it's like Simpsons level of
yeah.
like Law and Order levels of success. It's crazy. I
And
mean,
because it's like there's a few types of shows where if you change out the whole main cast slowly but surely, it still works. Like a hospital show like ER or yeah, Grey's Anatomy or something where like there's constantly staff, like huge staffs changing all the time anyway. It just works. So you just introduce one character when another actor gets too big and leaves or something. And then it just kind of slowly, eventually 10 years later, the whole cast is replaced. And it's like you don't even care. It just keeps going because the drama's great, or whatever. You're following along.
yeah, it's a soap in a way,
It's less jarring than if you just like recasted the whole thing from one season to the next or something. So like if they did that, I bet the viewership would be like, absolutely not. But if you do it slowly like that, people would just grow to accept it and like just love the drama and the show, the atmosphere. But yeah, you're right, man. I mean, and I think that's partially, that's again through no fault of their own in some ways. In other ways, maybe it is. But like, just yeah, the way stuff is consumed, the way stuff is produced, and I've heard things about this. Writers' rooms are smaller than ever. Yeah, a handful of people where it used to be, 7, 8, 10 people, writing in a writer's room for a big hit show. Because I mean, yeah, you're doing 24 original episodes or something. I mean, dude, you need ideas, man. Like you need like 10, 12 people that are just there to try to think up new fucking ways to do this. I mean, because
yeah,
otherwise you're going to be hitting a wall. And I think a lot of these shows now with the smaller writers' rooms, they are hitting a wall in that way.
yeah, you need competitiveness. Like,
Yeah.
and there just isn't that much now. It's kind of like people are writing, oh, if I can just tap this target audience.
Right.
Yeah, right. Not like, oh, I have to find like we have to make the best jokes. Like we have to find like the funniest moments with these characters. Right. There's none of that. We're against two or three other people in this ratings war. Like we gotta, we're in third place. We gotta make it up to first. Like
And
that's
they
their rule.
just don't make as much money off of it.
Yeah.
Like they just like back in the day, like there was like some viral clip of what's his face, George Costanza, Jason Alexander, talking about when they got that big renegotiated contract where they were each making 1 million an episode, basically, except for Jerry, who was making like 4 or 5 million an episode or something, because he was a writer, producer, star. He did more. Uh, but like he said something about how like that started like kind of the TV studios started to disconnect from reality where he said, okay, we got paid 1 million an episode, all the main stars, because we were the highest rated TV show on in the world, at the time. He's like, we were bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars in ad revenue for the network. He's like, so it made sense to pay us that much. He's like, but then you look at some of these shows. He's like, I think they were like, I forget what show he uses as an example, but another one of the stars got the same type of deal, 1 million an episode. He's just like, that's like number 14 in the ratings right now. He's like, it doesn't make any economic sense to like give that person that much money when they're not putting in this much for the company with the show.
Yeah.
And that business model is just gone because they're just not getting that ad revenue like they used to. So if like 100 million people watch the Seinfeld finale, they could charge Super Bowl prices for those 30-second ad spots. Like, I mean, and make hundreds of millions off of like a single episode of television. You just can't do that now. So it disincentivized the structure. So I was just thinking, like, great, right? Like Vince Gilligan should be having multiple, like he should be having all these writers' rooms. And I mean, he is, but he's one of the few that's grooming the next generation. He should be hiring writers that obviously he clicks with and he likes or whatever, but then like teaching them how to do what he did.
Yeah.
Same, Aaron Sorkin, like these kind of big writers that do have great track records in television and movies and stuff. Like, yeah, they should be given these roles to train the next thing. But again, if he can only bring in, if they're only giving him the budget for so many writers, he can only bring in 4 or 5 when he wanted to bring in 10. Well, now half of these writers aren't getting that kind of mentorship from one of the best in the business.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
that
I don't know
that
if we need any
compounds
more.
over a decade, and yeah.
I don't know if we need any more Aaron Sorkins,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. Dude,
but yeah, I
people
know what
people
you
shit
mean.
on him for his politics, but dude, he's an incredible, incredible writer.
Like,
Yeah.
he knows what, like, look, he writes shows that people like, just not me, I guess.
Dude, some of
But
his movies too, dude. Like Steve Jobs is fucking great. Uh
I like was it the Tom
so
Cruise one with the Marines?
oh yeah, 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 yeah. That was
A
his
Few
first
Good
one.
Men.
Yeah, that was his
Yeah,
first
I
one.
I,
Yeah.
I did like that.
That's
Other
fantastic.
than that,
Yeah.
like, look, I understand the West Wing maybe compelling
I've never
television.
watched The West Wing, so I know
Um,
people meme it all the time. I've seen like bits, but I've never it was before my time, so I
I, I
never really watched it. Yeah.
I watched it, and
Again, it's
it,
snappy. That
it's
Sorkin dialogue, man, is woo, woo, woo.
it is strangely addictive. It is sort of
Yeah,
like candy, but then when you get to the end of the episode, it's like, oh, this is just like kind of his like moralizing ethics, like propaganda stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very preachy. He's just very preachy
But dude,
in
the
all his stuff.
Social Network, dude, I love this. I thought it was great. People
I,
shit
I
on
I
that
did
too.
like, yeah, that was, I
Yeah,
did like that movie. Yeah.
and it was so unusual too, having Fincher direct it and having Sorkin write. Like, it's so unusual.
Mhm.
Even Sorkin said something about that. He's like, you have David Fincher. He's like, I don't know why we ever worked together. Where he's like, you have this guy that's directing these dark, drama movies. He's like, and I write scripts about people talking in rooms, like, and that's basically what all his scripts are, is people talking in rooms. And he's the best in the business at it.
Yeah.
They're always so compelling.
No, I did see he wrote that new To Kill a Mockingbird play.
Oh, damn, that's gonna be.
And yeah, I saw that a few years ago when it came to Vegas. And it was good. Like, yeah, so I didn't really mind that, but it didn't really have a lot of the Sorkin flair. It was just kind of a well done.
Yeah, when he does straight
Yeah.
drama, dude, Moneyball. Oh my God.
Oh, I forgot he did that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is good. Okay, yeah, I did like Moneyball.
And just the dialogue exchanges when they're sitting in that room with the scouts are just so good. The back and forth, dude. The guy's the best at it. Like, he's the best in the business at doing like a room full of people.
He did.
Uh,
So, I mean, for TV series, um, he did a show called Sports Night
right. Yeah.
with the guy from 6 Feet Under.
Deep cut.
Uh,
Alan Ball, right?
no, the actor,
Oh yeah.
Kraus, something Kraus, I want to say.
Because
Um,
I know Alan Ball and Sorkin were like came up together in like the underground playwriting scene in New York or something.
I'm that makes sense.
Yeah, and they both
Yeah,
kind of write this kind of whip smart, like fast drama
6 Feet
style.
Under is so good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that show. But Sports Night was a good Aaron Sorkin one, and then he also did, I think, one season of a show like it was like a Saturday Night Live um, show, like about a late night variety show that was pretty much ripped off of Saturday Night Live. I think Matthew Perry was in it, and some other famous people, but it's like Studio 60 Sunset Strip or something like that. I think that's what it was called. But that was a good show. It was canceled after a year, but I, but I just, something about the West Wing, and also that one he did with Jeff Daniels
the
on
newsroom.
HBO.
Yeah,
Newsroom, oh, it was so bad.
yeah.
That thing was so bad. I watched the first few episodes. I could not get past it. It was just, again, the preachy Aaron Sorkin comes in just like the West Wing. So yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah. I even liked his Molly's Game, his directorial debut. It wasn't like great, you know.
It
He's not
wasn't
my
it wasn't bad though. No.
yeah, but it was a good script because he wrote it, and I love Jessica Chastain. I think I have a thing for her,
Yeah,
uh,
she's hot.
even though she picks terrible movies most of the time. But I'll usually watch her in things. But yeah, that's just the writing is not what it used to be, and you can see it just from watching a TV show like Modern Family. From what was this, like 13 years old? I mean, like
Yeah.
like
I
14,
mean
15 years old.
I
It
mean, but
wasn't that long
it
ago.
just ended like 6 years ago. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Like,
Like five,
yeah.
6 years ago. Like it's crazy.
And the writing was just, yeah, like it's just so how far we've fallen in such a short amount of time is just unbelievable to me. But I did want to touch on this, like we mentioned it already, but like the wholesomeness. It's just a family show. It's not trying to be some edgy, art piece or something. It is meant to be mass entertainment for the biggest audience possible. PG rated. You know, uh, but there's like this wholesomeness that I think a lot of sitcoms are missing right now, or even just a lot of shows are missing. Like there's like the wholesome messages when they have the kind of voiceover at the end talking about the lesson they learned from whatever character that episode.
Mhm.
Pro family messages without being raunchy or sleazy about it. Even with like kind of the talking about the annoyances and the problems you have in families and stuff. Nobody's immune to that. Nobody has a perfect family, right? But it was still like pro family, like, oh, my big crazy family, I love them, right? Like it was just always came back to that no matter what happened in the episodes. There was
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't want to say after school special because it wasn't that cheesy, Maybe some people would argue it was. I don't think it was. I think it's so well done that it isn't. But it's like there's just a wholesomeness to this sitcom, that just I don't know. I feel like a warmth from it. Like it's a kind of wholesome family message that is always kind of embedded in it. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I mean, I agree, especially with the kids. I mean, that sort of is what makes it really wholesome because you can't go too far if there are kids involved, right?
Right.
And we haven't, so I think we've discussed every character really except for the kids.
Yeah.
I guess we touched on Haley a little bit, but so Manny, I mean,
Hmm.
in this first season, so cute, so adorable,
Perfect
like
casting.
all
Yeah.
yeah, all his like, very like I'm a mature, like I'm an adult,
Yes. Yes.
stuff really works because he's so young and innocent and
It has like a really
as we
rich
go on,
stepdad. Yeah.
as we go on, I guess we'll discuss his character. It changes a bit,
Yes.
but
And he has maybe the
this
most
first season,
drastic and worst kind of downfall like things.
yes, yeah,
Yeah. So that's gonna come up. Yeah.
but this first season, it works and it works really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's great. The interplay between him and Jay is great. It's always funny.
He's the
Um,
strongest actor of the child actors too.
oh
That
yeah,
that
yeah,
also changes as they all mature, but like yeah, and I get yeah, Haley's the one that's like a little bit different too because maybe because she's supposed to be like 16 when they start. She was the oldest of the children originally cast. So she has kind of more adult teenage storylines that she can go through, right away with her and her boyfriend sneaking out, whatever it is, kind of classic teenage daughter sitcom things
yeah,
even. So she has more lines because of that. She has more situations and stuff, more acting because of that. Whereas like, yeah, I mean, the guy that plays Manny at the time, I mean, what is he like 9 years old or something at that time, 9 year
yeah.
old
He's
kid.
pretty much the age he's cast as.
Yeah, same with Luke,
Yeah,
and then yeah, like what's her name, the middle child,
Alex.
Alex. Yeah, all those kids are cast, and yeah, they're kind of non-entities at first because like they're kids, right? So they come in for like a one-liner, they do like a little something, like they mostly pick on each other, or they're used for like a little plot thing. But then like we'll discuss this as it goes on too, is like as they get older, how they use them changes because they're like full-fledged adults by the time you're halfway through the season.
Mhm.
Uh, uh yeah, that's all stuff. And I mean, yeah, so they have Luke as kind of the dumb son, little boy, and it
Mhm.
works, that works such well with the contrast, like you were saying with Manny, dude. Like, yeah, it just works so well for that I guess his name's Rico Rodriguez, that actor, and he just worked so well playing
Yeah.
that dude. Like, yeah, the poetry, the weird stuff, uh just
Yeah.
works
Him
so
always like,
well.
yeah, flirting with, just being preoccupied with girls.
Yeah.
And this confidence he has, even though he's like a fat kid, like, which, like, I was a fat kid growing up. So it was like, like, oh, damn, I didn't have near the confidence this kid had.
Right.
um, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Um, yeah, he was definitely the best actor. The other male actor, uh, Luke,
Yeah.
perfectly cast, cute, adorable, dumb kid. Um, and one of the funniest parts in this first season was uh, uh, they were asking like all the kids, like, what's something that your parents tell you that you don't understand or something like that. And Luke was like, don't talk black to me. He's like, how do you even talk black? Do you end every word in isl? And and then Haley's like, it's don't talk back to me. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And later on, they in the episode they show Phil in the hospital with this like kidney stone thing he's got going on. That was such a great episode.
Dude,
Um,
that is a great one. Phil, especially for Ty Burrell as Phil in that one, dude.
yeah, because
Yeah.
Claire is like dressing up for the firefighters that are going to come to the house.
Is that the
um,
one where he's like in pain and they don't know why or whatever, and they're like, "Dad, are you okay?" He's like, "Oh no, it's fine, it's fine." He like stands up, he's like, "Oh, that's cancer." And he like
yeah, yeah,
he like falls down as he like tries to move. Just a
yeah,
great fucking line, dude. And the way
yeah.
he says it, like
No, that's like the whole thing. He's in pain, and like Claire is just like putting her best blouse on for the like that'll show her cleavage off for the firefighters because it's like this known thing in the neighborhood that the firefighters are hot. So she's just like trying to like, but yeah, when he's in the hospital and he's like, I guess the drugs are starting to kick in. Um, he has a conversation with Luke and he says to him, don't talk black to me. And it fits in with, sort of Luke's perspective of like, yeah, someone really did say that to me. My parents really did say, don't talk black to me, which,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, again, that joke would be able to be used today.
There was a, I think it might be in season two where there's the great, like, kind of use Luke as a one-liner where there was something about like Jay and Gloria having sex, and then Luke was just like, I didn't know Grandpa and Gloria could still do it, and then Phil's just like, Luke, don't be rude. Anyone could do it with Gloria. And speaking of that, dude, like, dude, the holiday episodes, another classic sitcom trope, but this one takes it pretty far where we have a Halloween, a Thanksgiving, usually a Christmas, a Valentine's
Yeah.
episode
Yeah,
every
Richard Gere.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the Valentine's episodes and like the bits that
Mhm.
start in this first season with the Bigsby speaker salesman.
Mhm.
When yeah, Phil and Claire do like the role playing for like their spicy Valentines, and of course it never works for them. That's like a running gag, but like
Yeah.
Phil's Clive Bigsby is so fucking good.
Yeah. No. Yeah, definitely like yeah, kind of again, the title is Modern Family, so it's like yeah, there's some kink stuff involved that usually wouldn't be shown on like normal sitcoms, and they make it very normal and funny. Uh, so
And even like that episode where in this first season where like Phil's old girlfriend, this is where Facebook comes into it, right? And I want to point out to listeners, and again, this is nostalgia, but this is also just the time. Facebook is never brought up on anybody's phone. It's always on a laptop when they talk about it in the show, at least at this point in time. That changes going forward. because of course it like, it reflects the culture it was made in, of course.
Yeah.
But like that's the first time they refer to the Facebook is mentioned in that episode. I think it's like episode 17 or something with like Phil's old girlfriend coming back and wants to have an affair with him.
Oh yeah.
Where
Yeah.
where Claire calls Facebook a hookup app for divorcees or whatever. And like
Mhm.
that's kind of what it was, kind of what it still is now, listeners, as they know. Um, and it was just it just like, yeah, the old girlfriend of Phil, no smartphones, and like even the dirty pic that like like the old girlfriend shows him is like on like a camera phone, as we used to call them, very small screen, grainy image. But just that, yeah, that Phil's carrying on like a whole relationship with this woman, but he thinks he's just being friendly to her.
Mhm.
Just like, I mean, again, like that being depicted, and also is like, yeah, this woman wants to have an affair with him, but he has to like be shown to be like not interested in it at all, or even seduced by it at all. He's kind of just that goof, right? Again, it's kind of that like the early stages of just kind of the male sexuality. Basic male sexuality is bad.
Mhm.
Just again, it's not laid on too thick. It's done very well usually, especially in these early seasons. I don't want to give people the wrong impression. I was just say watching it with this lens in mind, and hindsight being 2020, it was just like, oh, you can see it starting, like just the little things. Like you're just not allowed to show certain aspects of sexuality if it's straight and male, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, it
No,
never
a
goes too
man
raunchy.
should
Yeah,
never be attracted to his ex ever.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
or yeah, the kiss cam when Gloria kisses him at the kiss cam thing.
Yes.
And he's like all
Where she's just like, yeah,
terrified.
it's no big deal. Like, let's just put on a performance for the people, and it won't be anything. And obviously, yeah, Phil and Claire would take it differently.
Dude, I was thinking of like the number of guest stars, even for season one. Like, I get that this blew up pretty quickly, but it was also like, dude, what they had like Edward Norton come in like episode like 8 or 9
Yeah.
to do
Chaz
that. Like,
Palminteri, Shelley Long, and
even Kobe Bryant's in like the
let's see.
finale or something, like does like a
Oh yeah.
cameo.
Well, is that season two? I think that's season two.
It could be,
I
yeah.
want to say.
And then it's like too
'Cause
popular.
Well, the finale for this season was the Hawaii episodes,
Right.
whereas the first part is them like pretty much in the airport
Which
getting
is great, by the way.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
love them.
Cam is that act. Yeah, Eric Stone Street playing Cam is great in the airport.
Mhm.
Phil has so many, dude, that was one of the moments I remember rewatching this before we decided we were going to do this, when I was just putting it on to put it on. And what prompted our conversation over drinks to start this, when I was just like, that airport scene just made me realize how much I loved Phil's character and like how good Ty Burrell was as an actor playing that. Because I mean, I think comedy actors don't get enough credit. It's hard to do fucking comedy, man. It's hard to make like a goofy character like Phil Dunphy like lovable, hilarious, like quirky, like all these different things. Like it is hard to do that all the time. But just like when they pull up to that airport, dude, and like the bad guy is like doing the bags with Phil, and then the cab pulls up behind him, and it's Cam and Mitch. Phil just turns to the bad guy, and he's just like, "Oh, you know what? I know these guys. Can I borrow your hat for a minute? This will be hilarious." And
Yeah,
the guy just looks at him, and he's like, "No." And then Phil does this look to the camera, like it's like a 1 second glance where he like looks at the camera, and the face he makes is just so fucking perfect. I just bursted out laughing, where I was just like, man, like Ty Burrell knew exactly how to do this kind of disappointed, like embarrassed face, like, but also like Phil Dunphy, so he's still playing it off, and
yeah.
just captured that incredibly complex look and this kind of quick glance to the camera after the guy tells him off when he was trying to make a dumb Phil joke.
Mhm.
And it was just so perfect. I was like, damn, Ty Burrell should have gotten so many more fucking Emmys than he got for this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that's
one of
hard
the
to
best
do, dude.
actors on the show.
And especially like everybody goes to the more flamboyant one. So like Cam is a very flamboyant, like a good, something for an actor to really explore, have fun with. I don't know, Gloria, that's another flamboyant character. You could really kind of do stuff with it. But like, yeah, just like Phil Dunphy, just the way he plays that, I'm like, man, underrated, underrated.
Mhm.
Man, what else did
Now, yeah, I love the Hawaii episodes.
yeah. And Jay
I
is great
mean,
in that too. Like Jay just being like,
Oh yeah, he's so concerned about like he's loaded up his Robert Ludlum novels with his Kindle, right? And he's that he just wants to get there and he just wants to read on a beach or whatever. He does not want to do activities, do anything like that, and he's kind of disappointed that his family's going along. And like that's sort of everyone's kind of sympathetic to that. Like this guy just wants to relax and read, right? He's older, doesn't want to be around his family as much. Like he wants to take a vacation away from them because he's around them all the time. Um, but yeah, no, that I mean, also Hawaii episodes always for sitcoms always remind me of like the Brady Bunch Hawaii episodes.
Was that one
Like
of the first sitcoms to do it?
I think so. It really must have been.
Yeah,
But the
because they weren't
Mama's.
doing that on like Leave It to Beaver or something in the 50s. Yeah,
No, I don't think so.
yeah,
I've seen a lot of Leave It to Beaver, and I don't think I've seen a Hawaii episode.
yeah.
But yeah,
Air travel wasn't even really a, like
no,
yeah,
yeah, that'd be really rich, right?
yeah.
But I mean, Mama's Family did a great Hawaii one. I, there have been others, but it's sort of has become like a trope, like a camping in the forest episode or something like that. Like that was always like an episode.
It's because all the writers in Hollywood take Hawaii vacations.
Yeah, that's true. Probably, yeah,
It's
around
a
that time. Yeah.
shorter flight when you live on the West Coast. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, so yeah, Hawaii episodes are always great. But really, on the first part of it, when they're at the airport, it's what Haley sees some guy that she's really attracted to, um, in the airport, like waiting lounge, and I guess Alex is also attracted to him too. And then in the end, they find out that he's like what, like 13 years old or something
Yeah, he's
like
in like
that,
eighth
right? And like,
grade.
he's like, yeah, he's like 12, yeah, he's in eighth grade, and like they're in high school.
If you're hearing this, it's because you are listening to the free public feed of Heavy Board. To get complete, uncensored, uninterrupted, full access to this podcast, become a subscriber at patreon.com/heavyboard. That's right, Heavy Board is made possible by subscribers like you. For less than 1 cup of coffee per month, you will receive private access to uncensored, full-length episodes, Jerk Shop, heavy bonus content, subscribers-only AMA episodes, bonus extended interviews, and more. Come join the conversation today at patreon.com/heavyboard.
School,
And
or well, he
he was
was in
like
high
dressed
school.
well, so she thought he was a high school student.
Yeah, the big disappointment was like, yeah, that guy was in high school. Yeah, that was very funny. But and I guess ultimately in that second episode, the payoff for Phil and Claire was like, he was gonna, take her on for like a wedding. They're like a real wedding where I guess Jay gets to walk her down the aisle, which I guess he didn't when they were married before. They explained that whole backstory, so you get some of the lore. Um, but yeah, that was a very sweet ending to the season. That entire two-part series, it was great.
Yeah. The extended to be continued episodes. Love
Mhm.
those to be continued. Very, yeah, very TV writing. Uh, Something about that. I don't know if it just made it even more exciting when you were watching it week to week. When it would be like, oh, to be continued. You didn't get the conclusion yet. You had to watch next week to get the conclusion. It was like, oh man, that's
Yeah,
great too.
no, that is like, yeah. Again, you had to wait. Like there was like delayed gratification was something that people were used to back then, and no one is used to anymore, right? There's no delayed gratification. You just get whatever you want now.
And it
And
was always like wholesome too, where it was just like, yeah, even the ending of that, right? All the stuff happens, and then the first part of that finale with Jay kind of not wanting to be around his family or whatever, like sneaks off to the airport bar to have like shots of scotch,
Mhm.
Uh, but by the end, it's this wholesome thing, right? He's walking his daughter down the aisle here. Uh, it always comes back to this kind of wholesomeness, like pro family thing
Mhm.
that just, yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely not culturally that prevalent right now. I mean, I guess I don't really watch all these kind of current day sitcoms. I don't know how prevalent it is in that. But I always say like very few sitcoms now are about a family. It's mostly the animated ones that are like done by a comedian or something for like Netflix that are about like a single family or something. Like
Yeah, like
everything's
the
just
Bill Burr
become
one.
yeah, like everything's just
Yeah,
become like animated sitcom, animations doing it instead of like television sitcoms.
yeah,
I don't know. And maybe that has to do with the writing. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, or the times. I mean, I don't know why you'd have to make it animated. I mean, I guess the budget is one thing. So I guess, they say, hey, we'll do your show, but it's got to be animated. We're not spending
Yeah.
money on real actors.
And
That could
animation
be
gives
one
you like
thing.
kind of a freedom where you can do more stuff where you can get really graphic or really crazy with it, because it's animated, so there's already kind of this implied like goofiness, it's an animated show. It's not as serious as a live action show.
Yeah, for a general audience, I guess.
Right.
But for
Yeah.
me, it's like I'm just like not interested in an animated show.
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just not something I'm gonna watch. So
Has to be really good. Yeah.
yeah, it has to be recommended by like a lot of people I trust, right? And that doesn't happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna watch an animated show. Um,
And they're just, we already mentioned too, like how it kind of tracks the technology. I mean, there was a whole episode of Phil getting an iPad for his birthday
mhm.
and like, yeah, waiting in line for hours to get the first iPad. Uh, and telling in that too, right? The first iPhone was 2007. The first iPad was like 2009, 2010-ish.
Yeah.
Which I mean, essentially, it's just a bigger iPhone. Yeah. But,
But also, I want to bring up one thing I noticed.
oh,
Man,
yeah.
Jay's home, that like they always show the outside shots to that, and you're just like, damn, like the place they live is crazy. And it
Yeah.
really shows you how like kind of crazy rich Jay is. Like, but yeah, no, I always thought that was great because it just reminded me of like, yeah, that area definitely um has some very nice, pricey homes, always like great architecture.
Right.
Like, yeah, the architecture of that home is amazing.
That
Just,
and yeah. And it's like distinctly bigger than the other ones. Like the
oh,
living
yeah.
room is much bigger, has a bar in it, etc. Like it's just like little things that like the set designs to show you that he's wealthier than the other families because he's older and retired and like owned his own business, blah blah blah. And there's constant reference to like when they were kids, they weren't as rich. He wasn't as rich because his business was struggling. He was getting it off the ground, but 20, 30 years later, he's retiring from it or semi-retired from it, and it's successful. But like, so there's like reference to that too, and I think that the sets, because like the way they do those too, with like, okay, these are supposed to be like middle income, maybe a little towards the higher end of the middle income spectrum, right? Like, okay, Phil's a realtor in LA or in Southern California, probably does pretty well, even if you're just selling single family homes too, because I mean the basic single family home out there is costing you upwards of $1 million.
Mhm.
So I'm sure he's doing pretty well, middle class, upper middle class. And then yeah, Mitchell's supposed to be like a lawyer, like kind of a high powered attorney in Southern California. I'm sure he's doing pretty well too, big income kind of families, but still like not as wealthy as Jay. They have more of the middle class house size, and yeah, Haley and Alex share a room.
Mhm.
It's not like, oh, everybody has their own room in a big house. It's like, no, there's only a couple bedrooms, so they're smashing kids together. Uh,
But again, yeah, it's like still like they're nice houses, but like yeah,
right.
Jay just has like this crazy house. I mean, even the interior, it's just you could always tell when they're in Jay's house versus
Yeah, the
Phil's
kitchen.
house or Cam and Mitchell's
Yeah.
house.
the
Yeah,
size of the fridge and stuff, the
yeah,
kitchen, all of
definitely.
that stuff. Yeah, like the appliances, and it was just like again showing you like the production quality that like used to just be everywhere. Like it would like everything that had to do with the character was implied through the set. Uh, the furniture, the stuff like that.
Hmm.
Just yeah, fantastic. I mean, just like quality. I mean, this used to be a craftsmanship thing where people would take all this seriously, even if you were the lighting guy or the set designer on Modern Family, like a wholesome kind of mass audience sitcom. It was considered high craft. I mean, you put high craft into making these sets, like every little detail and stuff. Costumes, like the tropes like that, right? Like Jay always wearing the tracksuit, Manny always wearing those like kind of bowling shirts, like kind of
Hmm.
Cuban like hanging on the beach,
The
like
Guayabera shirts or whatever they call
yeah,
them. Yeah,
Miami, like yeah,
yeah, the Cuban, yeah, the Cuban shirts. That's what everyone knows them as.
yeah. And Gloria always wearing like some like expensive dress and heels, and then like Claire always wearing just kind of like a t-shirt and jeans. It's like
Mhm.
always kind of yeah for the character again. It's craft. I mean that's the craft of television production. I mean it's a lot of work. It's a lot of caring about the details, and look at what you get out of it. You get this great. I mean this is one of the ones like we said already. I mean it's a show holds up. I mean compared to a lot of the other sitcoms. Like I haven't gone back and done Big Bang Theory. I'm curious. I'm like I never really watched it when it was on either. But I was like, oh, I wonder if that hold up. I don't know if it would hold up as much as this one.
No, I wouldn't suggest it. I just don't think that that's. I mean, it honestly really didn't hold up when it was on, towards especially the last seasons. Like I watched it because it was sort of like one of those things that everyone watched,
Mhm.
like it kept it on in the background or whatever.
It was always
It
on.
was
Yeah.
it was my I was dating someone at the time that was into it, so just you put it on. But it was it won't hold up like Modern Family. No, certainly not. I mean, I think Two and a Half Men holds up better than you know Big Bang Theory for sure.
It's interesting thinking now. I wonder why they never did any spin-offs of like even the way they end the whole series, and we'll get to this eventually with like yeah, you think they would do some type of spin-off with like I mean, I don't know, the options were open.
Hmm.
Uh they
Yeah,
could
you
do
could
like
do
some
like a
spin-off.
Cam and Mitchell
Right.
show because it'd be
Exactly.
at that time, yeah, 2020, it'd be like, yeah, you want to give like the gay guys their own show. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't because yeah, I don't think it would work out very well.
Yeah, it wasn't that type of show where there were characters that drove the show. Obviously, we could point to like the funniest characters in the show. My three would be yeah, like Phil, Cam, and Jay are like the ones that are always kind of whenever they're on screen, it's funny usually. Uh, but it was more of an ensemble thing. Like their characters worked because everybody else is the huge ensemble cast, and this is a huge cast for a sitcom. Huge cast. I mean,
Yeah,
considering yeah, and the
because
amount of
there aren't like
screen time.
minor characters. Like even the kids have the same amount of screen time sometimes as the adults. So yeah, it's not like The Office where there's like, four main characters and then other ones that don't get screen time as much,
Right,
depending
like The
on the episode.
Office.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, or like The Office, where they don't even list all the actors' names in the opening credits
Yeah.
until the later seasons.
Hmm.
Where like yeah, BJ Novak got his name in there all the time because I guess he was one of the creators, but also he didn't have that much screen time for one of the few actors that gets named in the opening credits.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
But yeah, he was like he was like pretty much the writer for the majority of the seasons, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he was like the head writer or something, the showrunner or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think he did most of the work that was funny on that show.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, this is just like a great show too, and I'm excited to go into it with these other like seasons because I think there's a I mean, when we get into this, it just keeps the actors get into the characters and they're kind of the writers get into a groove and everything starts really clicking, even though it was already clicking in season one here. I feel like season two through five, everything really starts to click, and of course, like everything that goes on that long there's an arc where there's a peak and then it kind of goes downhill towards the end there. But,
Mm.
that can be all kinds of different things. Writers' room changes, people move on from projects, whatever it is. And I think it's the culture too changed in terms of how people write, what they write about too, which is going to come up in these later stuff too.
Yeah, but I still think I don't know. I guess I'll have to get to it. But my memory is that it still held up better than Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Which, if I mean, I look at those episodes now, and I'm just like, this is like it's not good. I don't. I'm not a Parks and Rec fan. Even a lot of the Office stuff, I'm just like I can't really get into that. Like,
It's
yeah,
interesting when
first few seasons were okay, but I just can't really get into that style of humor anymore. Maybe because it's been copied so much,
right,
but I don't think it's been copied by Modern Family. Modern Family had its own unique thing that wasn't part of like this Office, Parks Rec to Abbott
right.
Elementary, Stumble, whatever shows are on now that have that sort of same mockumentary feel.
Yeah. And even like Parks and Rec especially, but even in The Office where that first season of Parks and Rec and that first season of The Office, like it's almost a little awkward when you're watching them. Maybe because the mockumentary stuff was so new, and maybe I mean it's more so probably because the actors are getting into these characters. They haven't fully developed what these characters are yet.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, so you needed like a season for them to like get into it. Because I think even something like Parks and Rec, I always use the example of Ron Swanson. Go back and watch that first season of Parks and Rec, listeners. Like, Ron Swanson is not what he becomes in season two, three, and beyond, where he becomes the kind of the character that everybody knows and loves. And Nick Offerman's great in that, but it's just like that first season's a little weird. It just doesn't quite work as well. They have him wearing like a tie and like a like a suit to work and stuff, and it just doesn't suit the character, things like that. So when they start making him wear like those long sleeve polo shirts, it just really works for some reason with Ron Swanson. It just works better with that after first season. And yeah, I don't know what it is. Whereas this one, it kind of worked right away with all the characters. Sure, there wasn't quite, it gets better and better as it goes along in the first season here. But yeah, I don't know. This is one of those rare ones where a big ensemble cast, huge cast, uh, just works kind of right away. I think something like Community did it pretty well in that first season. Uh, and
Yeah, and there was an all right show.
yeah, there's a little
You got crazy towards the end.
it kind
Yeah.
of flatlines after a while, but yeah, Dan Harmon, he said, I think in interviews, he said the creator of that show has said, he knew it would only work if it was casted perfectly, like if it was perfect cast, uh, uh, for every role, and it was, so it kind of worked right away. Like you have to, like he was saying, like the casting is just as important as like the role itself, like the writing. If you don't have that perfect person in the role, it's not going to work. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I don't know. Yeah, just growing pains. And again, especially when you go back to like season one of The Office, nobody had seen a show like that before. Well, I guess technically the British version, but nobody really cared about the British version.
Yeah.
Uh, that wasn't as big as the American version. Still isn't, and people only watch it because of the American version now. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Just that great American sitcom stuff. Just felt like, yeah, this was the last one. And even watching it for this, it felt like we were witnessing, like, at least when I was watching, I was like, man, it does feel like I'm witnessing an artifact. And I guess technically it is, right? A sitcom of the era. But I was just like, you're almost witnessing the downfall of television and the American sitcom as we watch through for this 10, this was on 11 years. I mean, that's a long time. So you see a lot of winding things, a lot of cultural changes, and it just happened to fall into this kind of everything changing around 2012, 2016, everything changing politically, culturally, technologically, like just so much changing that we didn't know that it was going to be the end of like the kind of standard American sitcom. We didn't know that it was going to be the end of like, anticipating like the next episode every week, how people watch TV. We didn't know it was going to be the end of ad revenue for, all these broadcasting companies.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it lasted longer than, so last episode was 2019, 2020. I mean,
Yeah.
How I Met Your Mother, Two and a Half Men, Big Bang Theory, those were all like, they were done by then. So
Yeah.
I think this also technically, yeah, may have been the last one, as in kind of lasted um, longer than those other sitcoms.
And it just felt like something like I was like, yeah, we should document this. We should
Yeah.
document this and how it's kind of like this last American sitcom. Because even if there's another one eventually, I don't know, it's just going to be different than this one. This was the one that was using the kind of classic formula, even bringing in classic sitcom stars like Ed O'Neill,
Mhm.
like,
I
yeah,
mean,
just kind of the last of it.
it's all like, this has to be something that's appointment viewing, like, and I just don't know if we're ever going to get that again. There's no,
Yeah, it's over. Yeah.
unless there's some exclusive live event,
Super Bowl. Yeah.
yeah, something like that that happens at the end of a series, or maybe like the series itself is a exclusive live event on some streaming service, and you can't get it anywhere else like that, which is just not even, everyone's striking deals with other streaming services to like for add-ons and stuff like that. So who knows? That may
Right.
may never happen, but that's kind of the only way right now. It's like, a pay-per-view event, like a sporting event, like that's sporting events are kind of like the real appointment viewing stuff nowadays,
The
because
last ones. Yeah.
yeah, once they're done, it's in the news, the score of the game. Like, I mean, yeah, you could tape it and try not to hear
Right.
anything about it, but like it's that really is like, kind of like the live thing you need to watch are sporting events.
Yeah. If you're
Kind of
not
like
watching it live, you're missing something.
yeah,
And the
that
anticipation that nobody knows what's going to happen next. But then if you're watching even like a replay of it, like an hour after it ended, half the world knows how it happened already. So it's
yeah,
not the same kind of anticipatory adrenaline, like dramatic thing of like, yeah, it's the fourth quarter and you're watching it live and they need to get this first down. Yeah.
yeah, you got to watch it as it's happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Or the magic's gone. Because I
Mhm.
think about even some of these shows, like I'm watching Landman and stuff like that. Um,
Mhm.
that on Paramount, they do that weekly where it's a one episode a week as it's airing.
Yeah,
But it doesn't have the same urgency because once it airs, it's just up there. It's not like it goes away after. Or like you have like a specific viewing window. So you just don't have the same urgency to watch every episode.
yeah. And some people are like, "Oh yeah, I love that show," but you know what? I'm busy these couple weeks, so I'm just gonna binge like the 4 episodes that have aired so far on, Saturday,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
you can get them all done in one, and no one's talking about it at the time. It's not like something you need to see in order to engage in conversation with people. So it's like, yeah, you can just binge it on your own time. That's perfectly fine. Which, I'm not complaining about that
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah.
There's some good parts about that, but we definitely lost something in a kind of this appointment viewing for certain shows. I
And
mean,
it's
I
so
guess maybe soap operas are kind of like the last ones where it's like they're airing on network TV that you have to like follow along with.
But even then, I think like next day it's probably up on streaming, like
Oh
so
yeah,
if
yeah,
you miss a week or two, you could probably catch up, like you said, binge watch, and it's not like
yeah.
lost to you.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, that's what this whole podcast, I love those things where it is an intangible thing that's hard to talk about because we don't quite even know what we're missing. It's hard to even explain it
Yeah.
because it's just like a feeling that was in each person as they were waiting for the next episode or whatever it is. Like it just, yeah, it's just a hard thing. And when it is gone, and I think that's something that people mourn or are nostalgic for in our culture now, etc. But yeah, it's just not, it is something that's not there anymore. And sometimes we can remember it when we watch these older shows. Yeah. About anticipating it or just thinking back. It is something that is just a memory now to people that were old enough to live through it. And you didn't even have to be that old because it wasn't that long ago. Uh,
Mhm.
so almost every generation alive right now has some memory of that. And then it just isn't anymore. People are even blocking it out. I feel like Zoomers and stuff pretending like they never had any of this. I'm just like, okay, you weren't watching like the rerun cartoons, the reruns on Nickelodeon or whatever growing up. Like,
Mhm.
because I mean, it didn't start to just all move to streaming until like 10 years ago, man. Like, I don't know what everybody's pretending. It was like we forget. It's like almost an amnesia thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is something that people mourn here. But what final thoughts on season one here or anything else we didn't? I mean, of course, we're going to have multiple episodes, so we can just bring up whatever.
I think we covered
But
everything in my notes about season one.
same, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting seeing how it progresses.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for discussing some of the later seasons and just the slight changes that happen
Yeah, once we feel the
in
shifts and
each
if we feel them
character.
at the same times and stuff, yeah, through the
Yeah.
episodes or season to season, if there's like a distinct shift or not. Because I there's definitely something, but I wasn't paying as much attention when I rewatched it. So rewatching it with this, taking notes, etc., like that makes it a little different, especially with the lens in mind about how this is the perfect document of the chaos of the 2010s and what happened
Mhm.
culturally and why we're in this position now. It just kind of is one of the perfect kind of cultural documents. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So as you hear, listeners, there's going to be more of this, and Eric's going to be back with us here as we go into it. But yeah, man, this has been great.
Yeah, no, it's fun talking about this. I've loved rewatching this so far. So I'm looking
Same.
forward to talking with you some more about this.
Yeah, man, for sure. We're going to keep doing it. And like, yeah, it's just, there's so much to even say too. I was like, as I was rewatching it too, I was just like, man, this is such a great, like, there's just, yeah, the perfect vehicle for this.
Yeah, and for listeners, it's on Hulu. At least that's how
Yeah.
I've been watching it. So
I think it's at
yeah,
this point, it's on almost everything too. Like,
I, yeah, it might be. I don't know, but yeah, I've been watching it on Hulu.
same. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been great.
Yeah. All right, man. Until next time, we'll keep this up.
All right, yeah, looking forward to it, man.
Heavy.
Bored.
Heavy.
I am heavy bored.
I may say the male is entirely hostile. No!
Resources.
Life, friends, is boring. We must not say so. Are you radioactive now?
Inner.
Resources. American resources.
Being bored,
Some activities are intentional, right?
it shows such a lack
Heavy.
of gratitude for life. Bored. I
realize you night sweats and the day sweats, pal? Pal, I do.
If you're hearing this, it's because you are listening to the free public feed of Heavy Board. To get complete, uncensored, uninterrupted, full access to this podcast, become a subscriber at patreon.com/heavyboard. That's right, Heavy Board is made possible by subscribers like you. For less than 1 cup of coffee per month, you will receive private access to uncensored, full-length episodes, Jerk Shop, heavy bonus content, subscribers-only AMA episodes, bonus extended interviews, and more. Come join the conversation today at patreon.com/heavyboard.